due to the fact that on the 20th of May is when, 20th of April is when our deadline is for individuals to accept or decline their slots. So when we ran this data for you guys on the 27th, we knew that this would change. We do continuously evaluate the openings that we have, and as individuals continue to accept and decline, it's a domino effect where new slots then become available. Now we're reaching the end of the year. After the school year ends and grades are posted the last week of May, we also go into our system and look at grades for continuation in academy. Some students regretfully do not make the grades to continue. When we have students that come from private schools or from out of parish that come into our district, those individuals have to bring in their report cards so we can verify their grades. And at that time, again, there may be more openings. So again, it's a continuous domino effect as we get more data in that we have slots that are opening and closing. Do you have any questions in particular about the data that's in front of you that was presented as a snapshot on 4/27?
I do. So I wanted to make sure because make sure I was clear on this. So let's take Alice Boucher's Spanish Immersion, for example, where, and I believe that's on page 1, about 3/4 of the way down. And available slots, obviously it says we have 69 openings. 50 have been filled, we have 19 available slots, and we have 2 on the waiting list. Is this a lag of perhaps they were accepted but haven't returned their acknowledgement yet or something along these lines? Because I see this kind of situation popping up on several of the...
The other thing is, in the lottery process, we have 2 pots, if you will, an A and a B slot, and that's part of our desegregation order to make sure that our academies are filled with students from appropriate socioeconomic backgrounds. So at a certain point after the April 20th deadline, if we have students that are on the B side, we move them to the A side. So yes, where you see those waiting list numbers, most of those have been moved over if there was slots available. One of the exceptions is in the performing arts because those students haven't had an opportunity to participate in auditions. So the waiting list numbers that you see on your snapshot from 4/27 have changed because more students have been moved, if they were on an A or a B list, to the acceptance side.
And so it very clearly we can see that LEO Judice is a very popular program.
Yes, sir.
I guess clearly anyone that has a 0 in the available slots is a popular program. But one of the questions that comes up, or that I get from constituents, is David Thibodeau, who we have. It's a popular program. We have a waiting list, but my understanding is that they are well under capacity at the school itself. So how do we go about, and this is just a general question for the management of the schools and schools of choice in general, how do we go about expanding to meet demand in the places where we have capacity to do so?
2 answers to that question. Dr. Aguilar has charged us with increasing the numbers at David Thibodeau, so we have done that. We projected out for 4 years down the road to see what the enrollment numbers would look like at the 4 years. We've also started this year to do a more aggressive marketing campaign towards the end of the school year. We have a flyer ready to roll out at the end of May to announce to the community, to the public, what openings we do have. So I think that's an effort that maybe hasn't been done in the past, to do an end-of-the-year marketing campaign to help fill some of those open slots. We debated about, in that marketing campaign, to list specifics, but it's very dangerous to list specifics because, again, that domino effect, that today it may look like there's an opening, but tomorrow something could happen and there could not be that opening.
And Mr. Santani, if you'll permit me, we did authorize David Thibodeau to have 50 additional 6th grade slots as well as 25 additional 9th grade slots, thinking that each year for the next couple of years we'll add 75 seats to David Thibodeau. That should in 3 or 4 years fill up David Thibodeau.
Do we have any questions from other board members?
I have a question, Dr. Aguilar. Is there any reason we can't accelerate that? I mean, why do we have to phase it in over 3 years?
Well, the ideal time to enter David Thibodeau's 6th grade or 9th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So we did not want to overwhelm this. Bumping up the enrollment dramatically in 1 year is going to produce some staggered enrollment numbers for David Thibodeau. It's more prudent to take 3 years to build out the enrollment, we believe. And by the way, I'm thinking and looking at, like Elio Judy's, the number of students who want that program. We really do need to look at a second location for that program. If it is the program that is in fact that popular, then it's incumbent on the district to try to understand that and then find a second site to provide that same level of service for those kids. If it's rather not the program but the school, that's a different matter. But we need to understand that and build out the programs that are particularly popular and successful.
Any other questions from board members?
I have a general question regarding those less popular programs. At what point do we decide not to offer a program?
That's a great question.
Have we ever decided not to offer a program?
Sir?
Have we ever decided not to offer a program?
I was going to say, since the history of schools of choice, there has been additions, but there's not been any deletions. So that is something we would have to consider. If an academy has had continuous, and we can see a trend over time, that their enrollment has declined, and if it's not an area that workforce is telling us that they need, then my assumption would be we would sit with staff and look at those academies and make that difficult decision if it wasn't prudent to continue that academy.
And more than likely, we're not spending an awful lot of resources. If it's a small number of students, the number of staff members would be appropriate for that number of students. So we really do need to look at the benefit of that program as it interfaces with the total needs of the district. It's one of those things that we know we need to do is evaluate effectiveness of programs, and we intend to do that. By the way, we did, I'll tell you now, I did ask Ms. Olivier to budget an additional $150,000 in the general fund to support all schools of choice in next year. These programs have been largely in place for a number of years, and for budgetary reasons, we have not increased the funds available to increase the effectiveness or the rigor or the availability of new equipment or replacement equipment. So we did propose spreading $150,000 across all of the schools of choice as a sign that we're committed over the next couple of years to add additional monies to all of our schools of choice. If it's lack of proper current equipment, then we need to address that. And if we have programs that are not thriving and are not attracting students, then we need to look seriously about reformatting the availability of a program at a given school.
Is that process going to be done before we go through the budget process so that we can redirect resources soon or for next year?
Mr. Koneski, I just don't envision being able to have the necessary due diligence to make decisions over the next 2 or 3 weeks to decide about that. I'd really like us to commit additional resources. It's a small amount of money, but we really are committed to evaluating effectiveness and deciding whether or not we want to continue pursuing that pathway for students.
I think it might be more prudent to do this kind of decision making before the lottery in January, because if we decided to shut a program down now, it's something that someone may have already signed up for and made plans to take advantage of in August. So certainly I think that would be something to consider then. Ms. Olivier,
We would
you,
actually want to consider that before the fall frenzy, because
Before fall
that's the
frenzy.
opening of our application is at the fall frenzy. And Dr. Aguilar's exactly right. As I looked over the historical budgets over the last 5 years, the academies have been cut. So it has been more difficult for them to recruit and to maintain those levels. So we're very hopeful that this resurgence of a small amount of money to the academies will allow them to do more promotion and recruitment and to increase the rigor in their programs and hopefully recruit more students.
Are there any other questions from board members? So the other attachments on the agenda item are, the academy information. They largely restate what was shown in that table just now, but they also show, the director's name and things of that nature. So I guess we don't necessarily need to go line by line through those documents. So at this point, is there anyone in the audience that would like to come up and ask a question or make a comment on the information you've heard thus far on this agenda item? All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Olivier.
Thank you.
Item number 2 on our agenda is consider various options to address reducing student enrollment at Lafayette High School, including but not limited to program reassignment, school status, or changes to the attendance zone, beginning the process in the 17-18 school year. I'd like to make a general comment before we get started. There are 5 options, or I guess rather 6 options on the agenda for the school board to receive public comment and consider. And the way we're going to handle it is we're going to take it one option at a time. And if you have a comment on that particular option, we'd ask you to come up at that time and share with us your thoughts. But please try to stick to the option at hand. If there is something about moving the health academy, or you have a comment about changing Lafayette High into a magnet school, please wait until that option is being discussed and make your comment then. And please be considerate of, there are a lot of people at the meeting, and I'm sure everyone here would like a chance to speak. So, and we intend to let whoever wants to speak have their say. So please be considerate of others and know that there are a lot of people who would like to get their points across. So with that said, we will, let me read this real quick to make sure that we're going to, I need to pull up. Dr. Aguilar, isn't there a document with the actual list of options? Oh, no, okay, I see the recommended action. All right.
Mr. Chair,
I see.
before you go any further, I just want to ask, did you mention anything about a time limit? And the only reason I'm asking is because I would hate to see us get in deep into the meeting and then impose a time limit. It would be unfair for the remainder of the speakers. So I just thought I'd ask.
I suppose we should follow our general policy of 3 minutes. If anyone in the audience has any objection to a 3-minute time limit, you feel like you might need 4, please raise your hand. That's it, Dr. Chessel?
That might actually be too long.
No.
Just everyone listen. That might actually be too long because inevitably once you make it into the 1.5 and 2-minute portion of speaking, then it becomes the heartfelt understanding of, well, we're trying to do the best thing because Lafayette High is too crowded, too many kids there. We have to do something. Everybody knows that. But 3 minutes inevitably will end up being too long, guys, because there's...
Well, I'll say this. I don't think all 100 and however many people are here are going to speak. Right. But even if they did, let's go ahead and give them their say.
Okay. All right.
All right. So with that said, option number 1 is relocate 1 or more academies from Lafayette High to Como High. And with that said, I will ask that whoever would like to speak line up on the wall, and we will take you in order. And I believe, Ms. Melva, do we have our timer working? Right. We're going to do 3 minutes. No, we're going to do both programs on this one. This is going to be moving either or. right here. Well, let's say this. Relocate one or more academies, and what that implies is either performing arts or the Health Careers Academy, because the other programs that are at Lafayette High are special education and not schools of choice. So if you would limit your comments in this particular portion of the meeting to the concept of moving either the Health Careers Academy or the Performing Arts Academy to Como High School. Ms. Mangum, you get to speak twice, once for Dr. Leonard and once for yourself.
And once for one other person.
Well, how many people are you representing?
I am Melinda Mangum. I am a former teacher at Lafayette High. And Dr. Leonard asked me to read a letter he had written, so I'm not Melinda Mangum today. I'm Dr. Leonard. As an administrator at Lafayette High for 21 years, 12 years as principal, I would like to voice my opinion about the present conflict concerning the movement of any program from Lafayette High. It may serve best if I voice my opinion in the form of questions. Why fix something that isn't broke? And I understand what he's doing, but the English teacher flinched. And some of these guys know that. Wouldn't it seem more feasible to complete the zoning changes before the movement to any programs from the schools? Schools of choice students are selected by random draw from year to year. Therefore, the number of out-of-zone students is never known until the lottery selections have been completed in early spring of the preceding year. How can a fixed number be established for any school if it is not known how many their zone students are going to another school of choice? What is the cost of supporting two of the same faculty at two schools during the transition years? What is the cost of moving buildings, such as the Health Academy, equipment, computers, Health Academy and Performing Arts Academy, while maintaining the same equipment at LHS during the transition years? Development of a second gifted program result in maintaining a second gifted staff. It's difficult to find highly qualified, certified gifted teachers for one program, much less two. To be certified and gifted in the state of Louisiana, which has the highest requirements for teachers of gifted of any state that has a program, requires a master's degree, certification in subject matter for high school, and certification in gifted ed. It is my understanding that there are no graduates that have completed this requirement at UL for this semester. Culture and tradition are promoted in the educational world as one of the main factors for student success. Lafayette High has established the culture and tradition of student success. Why dismantle this culture and tradition? The community of Lafayette High, its students, its parents, its teachers and staff, the businesses in the community, all of these are family. Each existing academy in the parish is valuable for the betterment of the students in the community. Wouldn't it be more educationally sound to focus on the academics that are not functioning at capacity and promote an agenda to support, encourage participation in those academies in most need? I see no reason to dismantle any program of any school that has proven its success. Thank you for your consideration. Dr. Patrick J. Leonard, Sr. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mangum. And I would ask to please, you may feel the desire to clap and applaud after people's statements. Please hold it, and we'll have one general applause round at the end of each section, okay? Now that Dr. Leonard has spoken, I would ask that people who are here in person keep their comments to the particular item that we are discussing, particularly moving either the Health Careers Academy or the Performing Arts Academy to Como High School.
All right. Dr. Greg Roban. I'll start off just by mentioning, I don't think we can move either program without destroying some things that we built. So I'll tag on with what Dr. Leonard said, but to keep with the topic at hand of PAA or Health Academy, I'll just share some data and some questions. So thank you, Dr. Aguilar and Mr. Angel, members of the board, for hearing my concerns. If I read the newspaper correct, we're in a pretty large economic crisis. We have some monetary issues in the parish, a budget deficit that has to be addressed, and the cost of moving the Performing Arts Academy would be pretty exponential to keep the quality of education the same. Right, so we have a functioning auditorium with theatrical lighting, a functioning PA system. We have a large dance facility. We have a large amount of accommodations necessary to keep the program at its size, at its capacity, and functioning at its level. We have 9 faculty, so any transition would have to have at least hire a new choir teacher full-time and 6 transitional faculty. You'd have to purchase all new instruments transitionally for the orchestra program, the guitar program, the music technology program where I teach live sound design and microphones and audio recording techniques. We'd have to have an entire piano lab for the transitioning piano students. And so the cost of moving the Performing Arts Academy is going to be pretty large. And in the state of a budget crisis, the money could probably be used in ways that more cater towards the academic side of things than schools of choice. Besides the facility issue with money, the auditorium is a huge component of a performing arts curriculum. We are the performing arts. We perform. To perform in front of people, we have to have a venue in which to perform. So we're at a board meeting. We have a boardroom in which we are hearing the board members speak and the public. If this facility didn't exist and we had to be out in the parking lot giving performances or renting other spaces to do this sort of thing, right, we wouldn't be having as much public input. We wouldn't have as much public support to go and hear, say, a guitar concert outside in 90-degree heat, during a monsoon, right? And so even though our auditorium flooded, I still had my guitar concert in there. And so we just walk through the water because we have to have a place to perform as a performing art academy. So I just ask the board members to keep in mind that facilities are an integral part of a performing arts academy. And without proper facilities, we're lowering the standards for our students to achieve the goals that they've been expecting from the program in which we teach. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roban. I'd say that board members, if any of you have questions at any time or want a further clarification from any of the speakers or that something they say would like you to ask questions from staff, please just raise your hand.
All right. Awesome. Hi, my name's David Richards. I'm a Health Academy student at Lafayette High School, but I'm just going to keep this general between both academies. One thing that I was informed upon is both Lafayette High Health Academy and Performing Arts Academy have the lowest dropout rates out of any performing arts academy throughout the entire parish, or excuse me, throughout any school of choice academy throughout the entire parish. So I think instead of trying to move an academy or fiddle around with things like that, I think we should put our efforts into studying these academies and looking at what makes these two academies at Lafayette High School so successful and what really makes them strive. So I think this would be a lot, excuse me, I think this would be a lot more efficient course of action than moving it and having to stand back and say and watch and see how things will end up in the long run. I think this would not only benefit both of the academies at Lafayette High School, but we could implement these at all schools of choice academies throughout the entire parish. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Luke Pryor. I'm an alumni and a former student of choice, Schools of Choice Student of the Year, sorry. As of right now, I am currently employed with Acadian Ambulance. I'm not speaking on their behalf tonight, just making that clear. Graduating from Lafayette High, I graduated with my EMT basic to where I was eligible to start working right after school. With all the training that I learned from Lafayette High, the only thing that I could have asked for anything better was some better supplies. So we're talking about all the money that needs to be put forth in the effort to move the schools. when we could reallocate those funds, like Dr. Aguilar touched on earlier, with the $150,000 allocated to New Schools of Choice this year. That money, and along with the money that could be set aside for the allocation of a new school or move of a new school, could be put toward better gear towards students, better instruments for the Performing Arts Academy, better facilities for the Performing Arts Academy to fix that leaky auditorium that we've had for years. It gets rough, I can guarantee you. And like I said, the cutting edge technology that should be seen in the medical field, that our students should have the access to, not only in the hospital, but also practicing on in school. I just think that's a better way to reallocate the funds instead of having to move something that works just fine. I do see the overcrowding issue, but you will never hear a student on Lafayette High campus say it is overcrowded.
I heard one yesterday.
Oh, really?
By the way.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a first. Well, that's all I had to say. Thank you for your time.
I must be really lucky I found the one.
Yeah.
Mr. President, Dr. Aguilar, Mr. Santani, and members of the board, my name is Caroline Munsell, and I am the student body president at Lafayette High School, and I also had the honor of being named your district student of the year. I'm speaking on behalf of all my peers at Lafayette High today, asking you to please consider leaving Lafayette High in all its parts as it is. When I personally think of Lafayette High, overpopulation is certainly not the first thought that comes to my mind, but rather I think, wow, I have been so blessed to have all the interactions that I have with the many peers and teachers at Lafayette High School. When I think of Lafayette High, I think of the pep rallies that we have in which our band plays, and tuba fanfare is everyone's #1 request because we all support the band so much. I think of the dance team who reminds us that we can't all dance as well as we thought we could. I think of the cheerleaders supporting the football team, the students throwing beads at the spring sports teams as they walk by. I think of the musicals that we just brought back this year in which the theater department performs and the piano students accompany them. Lafayette High School is an A school, not necessarily because of the grades, but it is made up of the culture and all the different students working together. We all combine to form something so wonderful. The diversity at Lafayette High is what makes it an A school. My brother was able to pick up Spanish in 1 year just because of the students in his PE class. I know personally I'm not in the health academy, but I have been able to take sign language courses at Lafayette High, which have led me to realize that I would like to pursue interpreting as a career. And I know that there are students in the health academy and in performing arts who have had opportunities through these programs to realize, wow, this is something that I could do with the rest of my life. And to deprive a student of that opportunity, I think would certainly be just absolutely not something that we want to promote here in Lafayette. Again, the diversity not only is just wonderful, but it promotes school spirit. Everyone works together to support each other. Hey, you're on the dance team? Well, I'm in band. Let me support you if you come support me. The reason that Lafayette High is so successful, again, is because of this diversity, and moving the programs, I think, would ruin something that is a tradition, and this is a legacy. We have alumni here tonight, the young man who just spoke before me, and even those who are in the room who aren't speaking, just their presence, I believe, is enough of a statement that they are here to represent an issue that doesn't even currently affect them anymore. So again, I thank you for hearing our concerns, and please ask you to consider leaving Lafayette High's programs all intact the way that they are.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Harrelson, and my daughter goes to Lafayette High School, and my son is also in the arts program at LJ Alamon. And I just want to add just one thing. I have family that live in Oklahoma, and my family in Oklahoma goes to band competitions, and they see Lafayette High School in the national band competition, and they come when I visit. They go, "Wow, oh, that was Lafayette High School. That was a Lafayette High band." And for the Performing Arts Academy to be with that band, you know, having that performance opportunity to be a part of a national competition, you know, that is meaningful. And I think, you know, I got to say, you know, that put Lafayette, for our family, it put Lafayette on the map. it's like, people know Lafayette, Louisiana now, because the Lafayette High School Band has gone and represented us nationally. And I would just hope you would consider, in the choir travels, these performing arts programs with Lafayette High add a lot to the students that go there. Thank you.
I admire the restraint it must take to not clap. I really do.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Aguilard, and all the school board members for having this meeting and hearing our concerns so generously. I know I've been in contact with several school board members to voice my concern, but I wanted to just state again, because I feel very strongly about this fact, that the arts programs that we have, the performing arts programs that we have in place at Lafayette High School currently are successful because they exist in a integrated environment. I'm the strings teacher at Lafayette High, and in the ensemble that you guys heard at the groundbreaking ceremony for Southside High, we had students aged in 9th grade all the way up through 12th grade. There are students in the Performing Arts Academy who are in that ensemble, and there are students who are not in the Performing Arts Academy who are in that ensemble, and that is our top group. They operate on a professional time scale. They learned that all that music that you heard, they learned in 1 week during EOCs, and they compete. We don't yet compete on a national level, but we were able to take home sweepstakes from our state competition this year. But when you talk about trying to transition a program like in the performing arts, if you put a class of 9th graders at a different school, those 9th graders come at different levels. So it would be some students who are in 9th grade are still learning the fundamentals of how to hold their instrument. Some students are already playing at a almost professional level. So it'd be like trying to teach a math class in which you had students who are struggling to grasp Algebra 1 and students who are ready for pre-calculus or calculus all in one class and trying to meet those needs. When you have a program in place at Lafayette High School where those students can be differentiated, you can put them into the class that best meets their needs. So to move those 9th graders and just chunk them in one spot prevents you from being able to provide the differentiated learning that you have right now at Lafayette High. And the same is true for the choir, the band, the dance program. All of us, when we hear those auditions, we are placing those students into the ensemble where those children are going to be able to grow as artists. And even just the students that would be left at Lafayette High School. I have seniors who are in my beginning strings classes because for whatever personal and physical reasons, they haven't been able to master the instrument in the way that some others do. But anyway, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate it.
May I ask a question, please? It was me. That's it. At the meeting at Lafayette High last week, you mentioned that you were a product of the Performing Arts Academy, yes? Was that you?
No, that wasn't me. I went to a similar school in Alabama.
Okay, all right. Someone mentioned. Okay, I'll ask the question now. Someone mentioned that they were a product of the. Okay, dance at MP Moss. At MP Moss. So, would you step to the microphone, please, so everyone watching at home can hear you. When did Performing Arts move to Lafayette High?
Was it 2008? I believe 2008 or 2009. I was still in college at the time.
And what was the program like at MP Moss?
At MP Moss, it was quite a bit smaller. We had just an AM and a PM class. So the first 2 years of high school, I was bused to Lafayette High, or I was driven to Lafayette High and caught a bus at 6:20 in the morning, went to MP Moss, had class till about 6:50 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and then they drove us back, and we caught second hour on through. And then as a junior and a senior, we did the PM classes. But I want to say in dance, there was maybe max 25 kids at the most by the time I got to be a senior, and I did it all 4 years.
Okay.
So, and at the time there was also only theater, visual arts, and piano, and I think guitar as well over there.
Okay. So somebody, not even necessarily you, can refresh my memory. Is that when Moss Middle opened, what is now David Thibodeau, when Moss Middle opened, this replaced the school that was at Moss and Main Street?
As far as I understand and remember, the program moved over there. I know that the dance program had moved over there, and then it moved to Lafayette High. Like I said, it's been years, and I was in college during the time, so I'm not quite familiar with all the exact data at that time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Craig, how long were you the principal at Como High School?
10 years before I came here.
Oh, so you were there. Do you remember the reason why? Was it lack of an auditorium? Why performing arts was not moved to Como to join visual arts at that time?
The superintendent actually at the time had suggested pairing Como High School with the Moss Prep facility, the old Moss, and I think citizens kind of were against that idea.
Okay.
So it was put on the back burner.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Anyone else? Ms. Begno?
Good evening. Can you hear me? Oh, it's this one. I'm sorry. Good evening. I'm Jennifer Morrow, and I'm the director of the Academy of Health Careers at Lafayette High School. And I would like to thank you all for your service to our district, and thank you so much on behalf of everybody for at least hearing our concerns. I know it means a lot to all of us. The Performing Arts Academy has been at Lafayette High since 2008, and our program started in 04 and 05. So we're all very established, and we have some very, very long and deep roots in these, at Lafayette High School. I would like to first start out by looking at the recommendation that you said and looking at the advantages and the disadvantages that are listed on that recommendation. As an advantage, it says that relocating the health careers to Como would be the easiest to move with regards to the renovations needed at Como High School. And just as it is said by the Performing Arts Academy, moving them would be financially, kind of a stretch on the budget. So would moving the Health Academy. Our building would have to be moved, and guys, I'm not real sure it's going to survive the move. It meets our needs. It's kind of like having that car. It's worth more to you than it might be of the value. Our building is in very good shape, but axles have been removed to help with the foundation, and I'm not real sure that it's movable. And so if it is under discussion to create an auditorium for Como, I would at least hope that you guys would try to compare apples to apples. And so if you're considering building an entire new auditorium, if you were to move the Health Academy, I would hope that you would consider to provide us with some nifty upgrades, as well. So please understand that transitioning, just like with performing arts, is going to be difficult. Transitioning with the Health Academy and equipment would also be difficult. I want to focus on the academic impact. With our students, with the gifted program, it is very important that as an academic program that we stay where the academics are very rigorous, where our students can continue to get those gifted classes. Unfortunately, one of my students had some wrong information for you, and the attrition rate, I was doing some calculations, and Lafayette High School, the Health Academy, has the best attrition rate. We only have a 21% attrition. Visual Arts is second with only a 27% attrition rate, and we're talking about moving those two schools with some of the best completion rates. Performing Arts has a 39% attrition rate. So I would hope that, and I know, Ms. Argel, you had said this a long time ago, that the decision will be based on what is best for the student, and I trust that you guys will do that. Please look at the numbers and consider those numbers, because the data, with enrollment and students living in zone, those numbers speak volumes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Aguilar, members of the board, thank you.
One second, please. We evidently have two questions here. Mr. Angel? Perhaps.
I just want to make sure that I heard right. And I think it was performing arts, but did I just hear that the performing arts was once at Moss or it was somewhere else and moved in 08 or 09?
Yes, that's what the young ladies.
It was at Moss Annex.
Yes.
So we moved the program from Moss Annex to Lafayette High in 08 or 09.
That was what she said. Yes, sir.
I'm just asking.
Yes, sir.
And it's doing quite well.
I think that is patently clear.
Since the move.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Knezik.
I have a question. Dr. Aguilar, can we talk briefly about the facilities, classroom facilities? So if I remember right, with the opening of the new high school, Southside High School, we're going to move approximately 900 students from Como High School to Southside, which is going to free up, I believe you said 31 classrooms.
So, Mr. Knezik, just at staffing ratios, 29 to 1, moving 900 kids would free up 31 classrooms at Como High School. So we're going to have 31 empty classrooms at Como High School. We really need to do something with those facilities. So that's the number that we're thinking about.
Okay, and just for the audience, I wanted to back up and make sure everybody understood why we're having this discussion. We're having this discussion because fortunately we are building a new high school, and as a part of that process, students have to populate that high school, and most of those students, or a large portion, are coming from Como High School, 900. So that's 900 seats, 31 classrooms that we have to fill at Como High School. So that kind of begins the process of how do we do that. We had our demographer, if you weren't at that meeting, our demographer came and said, hey, I'm rezoning. You know, we hired him to rezone. But as a part of that rezoning, we need you, the board, to consider moving some programs because that's a big part of the rezoning. So I just kind of wanted to back up and make sure that everybody understood that there will be facilities, capacity at Como High School, classrooms that need to be filled.
Mr. Hidalgo.
Yes, I don't know, Dr. Aguilar, if you can answer this or if Miss Olivier is still in the room. My understanding is there's a percentage of students at Lafayette High who are dual enrolled in, say, Gifted and Health Academy. Do we have a percentage or a number or?
That is 37 in the Health, I'm going to do this from memory, 37 in the Health Academy are Gifted in Health, and 21, I believe, in the Performing Arts is Gifted.
Thank you.
Performing Arts. Mr. Latchley?
Just kind of maybe to inject something here for the younger people in the audience, or those of you may have not been here. Around 25 years ago, you had this same problem. You had a school that was losing population because the area was zoned for, the younger kids were moving out, and the parents were staying put. That was Lafayette High School. The population was getting down to about 1,200. That's about the time that Gifted, each high school had their own Gifted program. All Gifted programs were taken from the other high schools and moved to Lafayette High because of budget reasons. So each high school lost their Gifted program and it became one at Lafayette High. And I've gotten this information from the former board member of District 5 who was on the board at the time. Zones were redrawn. What I'm going to call the other side of Johnson Street from Lafayette High, from almost Rivers Bend to Vermilion Parish, had been Acadiana for many, many, many years, was rezoned to help with enrollment at Lafayette High. So there's nobody hates change worse than I do. None of you hate it worse than I do. That's the only constant in life is change. But 25 years ago, the roles were reversed. Lafayette High needed students. This parish had to be zoned to help Lafayette High. I remember it clearly. I spoke with the board member who serves in the same district as mine, who was the board member at the time, and made sure the information I remember was correct. So I mean, if any changes are made, it has been done opposite to help Lafayette High years ago. Lafayette High was shrinking. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Sure. Is it still on the table that if the Health Academy goes to Como High School, the visual arts program would be moved to Lafayette High?
That was going to be one of my questions at some point, so it might as well be now. Dr. Aguilar? there was a change, I guess, what she's saying, there was a change to one of the recommendations between the posting of the agenda in mid-April and now.
Mrs.
Right,
Santani,
originally, yeah.
you are correct that one of the earlier recommendations was to swap programs. Now, in designing this agenda item for this meeting today, we listed the 5 proposals, and we did not include the visual arts moving over. However, at this juncture, it is entirely up to the board to decide what, if any, programs are moved.
Thank you very much. With that said, we will stick to discussing the programs at Lafayette High for right now.
Dr. Aguilar, members of the board, thank you for having us. My name is Holly Greffy. I'm the choir director at Lafayette High School. We have approximately 250 students enrolled in choir. In the fall, we have a particular show that we have 7 performances of the show, 7 days of the performance. We are able to use our auditorium for this performance. Although it is flooded and we had to have parents come and vacuum out water before we could perform, we still had a place to perform. For our spring concert, we were able to rent Angel Hall, which actually it flooded on Saturday. The reason we rented Angel Hall was because for that particular concert, there's not enough space on stage. Angel Hall is about $1,000 a day to rent. The Hyman Center, where we use for our Christmas concert, because again, there's so many students on stage, is $3,800 for 4 hours of lights, sound, and ability to use the auditorium for 4 hours. For our fall show, we would not be able to have 7 performances at the Hyman Center or Angel Hall. Our auditorium, and we can look at the calendar, but there is between up to 200 events in the auditorium this year that have included Performing Arts Academy events, rehearsals, students. And so I just think that if there's not money to build a facility, that keeping the Arts Academy at a place where there is a performance space, well, be it needs work, but there actually is a place to perform that is basically, if we pay our custodian and our people, we can use that facility. Also, our dance room, there's not another dance studio in the city of Lafayette, whether it be private or public, that is the size and quality of our dance studio. The choir room also at Como, our choir room is the smallest in probably the state. The only smaller one that I know of is Como High School's choir room is smaller than Lafayette High's facility for choir. So just please think about performance venues and the cost that the students will have to incur to be able to perform in an area other than the cafeteria or the gymnasium. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Graffey.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, and Dr. Aguilar. If you wanted me to sing a song, I could sing a song, but I'm nervous speaking in front of people for some reason. I'm the theater teacher at Lafayette High. And I could play a part, I just can't really talk. Okay.
Play the part of someone speaking at a school board meeting.
Okay. I am actually a product of the first Performing Arts Academy that started at LJ Alma back many years ago. I went through the Arts Academy at LJ Alma, and then I went to Como, which I had an amazing experience at Como with Magic Moods. I was part of show choir. I was also part of Sandra Broussard's speech and debate team, which rocks. So I love Como. It's where I grew up. However, also, at Como, we didn't have the facilities that we do at Lafayette High. We didn't have the auditorium. In fact, the show that I left Como High was Your Good Man Charlie Brown, which is the musical that we just brought back this year at the auditorium. With that musical, we reached 1,500 students from J. Wallace James, from Plantation Elementary. They bussed in from all over the parish to come to Lafayette High to sit in our auditorium and watch our students perform. And the magic that it did, not only for my students, but for those students as well. We got over 100 letters from different elementary schools telling us how much they enjoyed their performance. Our department as you know, we don't have a lot of money. It raised some money for us. And also, we don't have a lot of money in our budget, as Chorus does, because they have such a huge student population. We can't afford to rent. Thank you, 1 minute. We can't afford to rent. Sorry, stage manager. We can't afford to rent places like Angel Hall. So please consider keeping our program at Lafayette High. We'd really appreciate it. We love the auditorium. Thank you.
You did a wonderful job.
Hello, my name is Carmen Seymour, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Academy of Health Careers at Lafayette High School, and I'm not very comfortable speaking in front of adults either, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I just wanted to talk about zoning a little bit. I appreciate you guys taking this, listening to what we have to say, because I know that everybody here is speaking not only with facts, but from the heart, and it's obvious that everybody's very emotional about this. The first thing is, I don't want anybody to leave Lafayette High School. It's the only high school I've ever taught at for the past 10 years, and I wouldn't want to teach anywhere else. And not saying that anywhere else is worse or better, but it's our home and we love it, and so none of us want to leave. But in speaking about the zones, we talked about how attrition levels, we said that the 21% that Ms. Morrow mentioned earlier, 10% of our students are gifted students in the Health Academy. And in terms of protecting the students that live within the zone for Lafayette High School, I would just like to point out that 37% of our Academy of Health Career students are in zone for Lafayette High School. We only have about 19% that are zoned for Como. Whereas for the Arts Academy, the Performing Arts Academy, they do have 28% of their students that are zoned for Como, and only 19% are in zone for Lafayette High School. So I think that it's important to just look at those numbers in terms of who is zoned for Lafayette High School. I know, Mr. Santani, that you're always talking about how you want to protect the students within their zone, and so I think it's just important to point those numbers out. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is William Plummer. I'm the Director of Choral Activities at UL Lafayette. I think I can speak for not only UL Lafayette School of Music, but also any university who would be lucky enough to have a former student from Lafayette High in the Arts Academy attending them, that we have some grave concerns on our level too. Not only the facility concerns, which have already been mentioned, but also the concerns about dividing up the classes and gradually shifting them over, which again, as was mentioned earlier, creates an inability to place students at a level where they can continue to thrive at the level that they're at. Those two combinations, in my estimation, would not only would in effect kick the program while it was down. We have seen, as we've watched very happily, the quality at Lafayette High soar, not in multiple areas, including, of course, band. To have a band that's nationally known at a high school is an incredible feather in the cap of, I would think, this school board and this parish and our state. To have a choir that has gone to a regional American Choral Directors Association convention, that, to my knowledge, has not happened for any other institution here but LSU and our state. These are incredible accomplishments, and we hope, and I think I speak for everyone at the collegiate level, that this quality can continue to remain high, and I think it's important to keep the program intact for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Aguilar, do we have any kind of rough estimate on the cost associated with phasing a move of the academies? Several people have mentioned tonight how it would cost instruments, it would cost faculty to split the programs at both schools. Certainly we've had a couple of discussions of the academic impact of it. Do we have any kind of estimate on the cost to phase it as opposed to the cost of simply moving it?
Mr. Centani, we did not get that far down in the analysis. We were thinking more about the human impact of shifting a program, thinking that the more deliberate approach would be to move it incrementally, one grade at a time, over a given number of years. So we did not calculate the cost as such to be more abrupt in the move.
Prior to a final vote by the full board on this matter, would you please include some level of detail on those two options as when it comes to moving a program?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is anyone else? Mr. Angel.
When the Performing Arts Academy moved from Moss and X, I think it was it moved incrementally like Dr. Aguilar is saying, or was everybody moved at one time?
Everyone was moved at one time, and I believe the primary reason was because most students were zoned for Lafayette High, and they were taking the Lafayette High kids and busing them over there, and so they decided to move it to Lafayette High so that students wouldn't have to be bused. So they moved the whole program in globo, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, that was one of the points that I wanted to make, was that from what I remember, Scotty Walker, band director at Lafayette High, one of the reasons that I remember was that there was a large number of students that were at Lafayette High School. So the health careers, all of the schools of choice had happened a few years before, I believe, and then because of that, that's what I remember. Mr. Craig, you may be able to have other information than that, but that's what was explained to us at the time. So it wasn't a large program, though, at the annex at the time. So it was not. Yeah. So one of the things that I just asked the board to consider, if you would consider moving the Performing Arts Academy, the need for an auditorium and the cost of the auditorium to build it at another school if you'd have to do that. And if you would do that, then the existing auditorium already that we have at Lafayette High School is in such disrepair that certainly there are some things that should be done to that auditorium if that's considered for an auditorium at another place. So that's just one of the considerations.
Thank you. I personally experienced what needs to be done at that auditorium a couple of weeks ago. It took me a day to dry out my shoes. Does anyone else have a comment on moving one or more or either or academies option? Do any board members have any questions on anything you've heard? All right, well, let's move on to option number 2. Regulate enrollment at Lafayette High School by reducing the number of students accepted to the Academy of Health Careers and the Performing Arts Academy. I believe this would be commonly referred to as placing a higher cap on the annual enrollment of 9th graders in each program than currently exists. And I believe in our item from agenda item number 1, or the available seats for 9th grade students on this agenda item? I can't remember. I know the Health Academy is 100, but which agenda item? Okay,
yes, sir. They are on the sheets, the enrollment numbers, okay, or the available slots.
All right. So the Health Academy has 100 seats in each grade level, 9th through 12th, and the Performing Arts has, that's
100 for 9th, and 10th and 11th grade depend upon if students are lost throughout the year. So currently there's 25 slots at 10th and 11th to be filled.
I mean, I count significantly more than 100 for Performing Arts in 9th grade. I count, what's that? That's 44, 58, 70, 94. Yeah. It looks like about 150 right now in 9th grade. If I'm reading this right, at the very bottom of your sheet, it says 9 dance, 9 piano, 9 guitar, 9 string, 9 theater, 9 choral, and 9 instrumental?
Yes, sir.
And those are all the seats in Performing Arts for 9th grade?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's 154? Quick.
What's this document labeled, Mr. Chairman?
This is from the first agenda item when we were discussing the... lottery status?
Thank you.
I apologize. I was actually looking at visual and applied arts, not the next page, which is performing arts.
Okay, thank you very much. 144, you're off by 10. All right, so 144 for performing arts and 100 for the Health Academy. And then going forward, do we try to fill when a seat opens? Let's say 140 ninth graders go to 10th grade in performing arts. Do we say anyone in the parish, if you got 4 children that apply, they get to go? Do we try to backfill that slot?
Yes, if there are slots available, we do try to backfill.
Okay, so that means we can have a total of up to 600, nearly 600 performing arts students at Lafayette High. I know we're only at 441.
Again, the openings are dependent upon each of the genres or the disciplines. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
No, just in general. Look at we're saying we let in 144 ninth graders, up to 144 ninth graders every year, and it looks like we do a pretty good job of getting to pretty close to 144.
We recently had this discussion that in the performing arts, because of the articulation from elementary to middle and to high, that often those numbers, they may seem arbitrary, but they are because they are fed by the elementary and the middle and the high.
No, I understand that, yes. But what I'm asking is, as this 144 move forward, and I said if 140 re-enroll for 10th grade in performing arts, do we then go to the lottery and say, let's offer 4?
At that 10th grade spot.
That 10th grade spot.
Yes,
we
sir.
do that. So we're
not taking any more 10th graders.
It was going to be my next question, then how are we only at 441?
Right.
Okay.
And so there's one for Health Academy, and there's also one for Performing Arts Academy. It shows points of entry and the current enrollment.
I will pull that up right now.
At the bottom of that page, there is no 10th, so that's why there's no 10th entry.
Aha. Okay, so this 144, those kids that get into 9th grade, that's it.
That stays at 144. That's going to move up to 10th. So
and if they leave, then we move on with 140. And if they
Yes,
leave,
sir.
we move on. Okay. That makes much more sense. Okay. And so out of the, could have been nearly 600, we're at 441. Is that correct? That's the number I've had in my head from the beginning. 441 is
yes,
right.
and Ms. Begno is correct. In that same packet is the description of the entry points of each of the academy and what the numbers are.
Okay. And so moving on to health, we have 100, which implies a maximum of 400 if everyone's stuck with the program all 4 years.
Yes, sir.
And we are currently at 353 or 351. I can't remember which one. 353. 348. Is that what it says? All right.
The attachment does. I think with Ms. Olivia and me collecting data, we're off by 5 or 6 kids, kind of the sources of our data.
Okay. That's fine. This will be good enough for our discussion. So, I guess this kind of gets us into the discussion of the zone versus the how do we get to 2,000 children? Because if we do want to do something at Lafayette High, if we do want to balance the population of students in the parish, there probably needs to be a decision at some point on whether to do it completely through schools of choice or completely through zoning. So I guess, Dr. Aguilar, do you have any, or Ms. Olivier, do you have any suggestion on what kind of cap we could further reduce this 144 and 100? Or how many students, maybe we can hear from the directors again on how many students, certainly there's a critical threshold where the program can't sustain itself. So we don't want to go below that.
So, Mr. Centani, I want to be clear that we do not believe it's in the best interest to cap enrollment. However, we did look at the possibility of, for example, saying the entry class would be no more than 75 students. That would cap the 4-year enrollment at 300 in the academy. That reduces the number of seats by about 100 to 150. That gives us approximately 250 students' seats that are available, and then the remainder could be found through rezoning through Mike Hefner. So we would be shrinking the size of the programs to provide some seats.
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions or comments on this one?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'll yield to Mr. President.
Mr. Angel.
Is that what we're talking about? Is that up for discussion now? Is
Yes, sir.
Limiting the number of students in the various?
Yeah, don't move them, but simply limit the number of students who are moved.
I just want to. I want to speak out against that. All I've heard was how great these programs are. All I've heard is how much interaction takes place between the gifted over here and the performing arts people here and the band over here, and there's all kinds of things going on. And yet, and I agree with that. I don't agree with all what the audience thinks, but I agree with that. And why would we want to limit all of this interaction? Why would we want to limit the number of gifted that can interact with the number of those in performing arts, or gifted with those in the health academy, or the health academy with the performing arts? Why would we want to stymie these kids or these numbers? Why would we want to shrink these numbers when in fact it works well?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Follow that, Mr.
Wow,
Hidalgo.
y'all don't even know what I was going to say. Thank y'all.
Follow that.
Well, I can't follow it, and that's my point. You know, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'm vehemently against capping anything. I mean, you know, look, it's not fair to the students. It's not fair to the future students to accommodate, and I don't know why they say this. I hope this doesn't come off as the way it might, but it's not fair for a future student to try to accommodate existing students just so they can stay at a certain location. I am not for capping anything, so hopefully we can move past this agenda item, this particular portion, and get into something else more serious.
All righty, thank you.
Mr. Centini, I'd like to also add that due to our work with workforce, they highly advise and suggest that we not look at capping specifically the Health Academy students, since that is a growing industry in our community.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any comments from the audience on?
Mr. Centani, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Dr. Aguilar, I have a question. If a student enrolls in a program or an academy as a freshman, then disenrolls or
withdraws.
Withdraws. Yeah, sorry. Withdraws from that as a sophomore. Does that student then, and they're an out-of-zone student, do they return back to their home zone? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Aguilar.
Does anyone in the audience have a comment on this? As I say, this seems to be a fairly unpopular idea right here. I didn't think we'd find anything more unpopular than changing a zone.
Well, I would add that there are limits in life, and there are requirements to limit things, and we cannot. I think within reason, we can have reasonable limits for planning purposes. I mean, we have to be able to plan and move forward. I haven't heard. I don't think we need to reduce the amount by 50%. I think there are other solutions, but.
I'll tell you what my wife told me, because she's an artist, and she said to me when I said, "What do you think about capping this and putting an audition requirement on it?" And she said, "Let me tell you about the life of an artist. It's nothing but auditions." I said, "Well, okay, that's something to consider there." So, yes, ma'am.
Am I allowed to speak on this topic again?
Absolutely.
Okay. I did want to say, from the Performing Arts Academy perspective, it really depends on the particular program that you're talking about. For example, for guitar and strings, and I think dance as well, the only place that a student can study that as part of their high school curriculum is through the Performing Arts Academy. And when you start capping that number, then you have people who are really passionate and talented in those areas who are not able to, their needs are not being met by our school system. You know, just as if there's not a place for them to perform, they're not able to be met, and if they're not able to enter into the program, their needs are not being met. And then on the other hand, it was mentioned that the attrition rate for Performing Arts Academy is a little on the high side. And part of that reason is because we aren't necessarily able to select some parts of the program aren't able to select students based on their actual skill level. So some of these students are coming in through the lottery system who, into programs that have this large areas that maybe have a larger limit to get in, that aren't really prepared for the rigor of our curriculum. And so that's why some of our students aren't sticking with the program. And on the other hand, some of our students, I have several students who are zoned for Lafayette High who went to LJ Alamon through the Performing Arts Academy, but then ended up maybe their freshman year decided, well, if you're in the Performing Arts Academy, you have maybe, I think it's one free elective that you're able to take, because you have to take additional electives as part of the Performing Arts Academy. So they get in, they decide, strings is my passion, but I want to take computer science elective, and I'm not going to be able to do that as a high school student. So they, because they're zoned for Lafayette High, withdraw from the program, but they're still enrolled in the class as part of their zone school. So it makes our attrition rate look like we're losing all these kids, but they're actually the ones that are zoned for Lafayette High anyway, and they're choosing to stay at Lafayette High. So I just wanted to put that for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can just add one more about that attrition rate. A lot of our attrition rate comes from Lafayette High School seniors who have to make the choice between dual enrollment and staying in our program. And since they're already at Lafayette High and they can take some of our classes, they choose to dual enroll at the college level, and they can't complete our curriculum. And so they still get to stay at Lafayette High because they're zoned, so they exit and give us large attrition numbers as seniors, but because they're doing dual enrollment. And so those numbers are a little skewed.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Becky Cade, and I came as a concerned parent tonight, thinking about my child who's in the Arts Academy and wondering how you'll take those 31 classrooms and build her a dance room that's comparable to the one that's at Lafayette High, or how she'll leave Alamo and this beautiful new auditorium that's been built for them and go to a place with no auditorium. But I'd like really to speak as a teacher at the Elementary Arts Academy. And I want you to remember that earlier it was discussed about how maybe we need to look at duplicating these programs that are successful, that have high waiting lists, and now we're talking about capping the performing arts program at the high school level. So we need to think about balancing that. And if we want to duplicate it at an elementary level, we need to duplicate it at the high school level as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if there are no other questions from any board members, we'll move on from this one, because I don't sense much support here. Option number 3 would be to create equal parallel health careers and/or performing arts academies at Como High, with gifted services being available at both sites beginning with the 2017-2018 school year. Are there any questions from board members regarding this option?
Dr. Aguilar, do you have a summary of a plan or cost associated with the implementation of this recommendation?
Let's see, is Bart, would you like to comment on maybe ideas about gifted services at Como High School? We haven't worked up, other than transitioning a program, an academy, to Como High School. There would be a small number of additional teachers needed as we transition.
Good evening. Bart Thibodeau, Director of Special Education. In some of the scenarios that we've looked at, there was discussion with regarding separation of the programs. In discussion with faculty members from the gifted teachers at Lafayette High, along with our other supervisors who are working with gifted and talented, we would urge you as the board to essentially look at perhaps a separation as maybe one of the final approaches that you would take. I say that because what currently exists at Lafayette High is best practices. We have a number of districts who visit that site and attempt to basically emulate what's happening at Lafayette High School. So it makes it hard if we're looking at a separation, because you are looking at those resources, both human and capital, and how you're going to separate those two between two sites. If we were looking at an either-or site, I think that's something that we could make work. But just the fact from what we've heard tonight from Lafayette High, I mean alumni, current students, when resources get compacted, I find it's easy to tend to maybe be protective, overprotective of your own section. We've seen none of that tonight. Everybody here is showing a solidarity and I think a unity in what they're trying to do with the programming at Lafayette High. So I know Ms. Mangum's going to cringe, but in the words of Dr. Leonard, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There is an issue with gifted, being at that facility. If we needed to replicate it, because we also understand there are going to be 900 seats to fill at Como. So certainly if there were going to be a one or the other, I think that's something that could be addressed. I'm just not sure how practical it would be to split it between two different high schools where you're offering same services, but then you're taxing the facilities and the human staff. And we have really no numbers. Nobody has gone through that in depth. We were hoping to basically provide you with a number of various scenarios in which to choose from, but that's basically where we are with it.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Thibodeau? Thank you, sir. Ms. Mangum.
I am Melinda Mangum. Mr. Centani, members of the board, Donna Eckelard, our superintendent. I am representing today the young woman who put together the petition to keep the gifted program at Lafayette High. She is in Russia this evening with Catherine the Great, who is very politically skilled, I might add. And she will be a graduate of Columbia Law School this month. We have a copy of the petition to pass around to each of you with comments from students as well as all the signatures that we've gotten. There was also, I believe, a petition done by the arts program, and I think it has 1,000 or so signatures on it. Ours has 500 and something. It's only been out about 5 days. Ours, or the students' petition. I'm sorry. I hope that you will read it. There are some incredible comments from students. John Paul Jacquette, who was president of the student body at Lafayette High, is a Harvard graduate, is at Yale Law School now. There's a young man who's working on his PhD. He won the top scholarship to Tulane. He's at the University of Chicago now, getting a PhD in linguistics. We have a student who responded who is a Harvard graduate, a PhD from MIT, and just received a full scholarship to Cleveland Clinic for med school. So these are not lightweights that are responding. Across the board, you're getting some really good information. On the sheet we also passed out to you, there is a letter that was written by a young girl at Alamo that I thought you might like to see. And unfortunately, I was in such a hurry, I pulled some information about where our kids go to college that I was asked to attach to this, and I got one that was an older one. And I think we talk about, it was a year that the government didn't address the FAFSA information, and we only had $16 million. I think my last year at Lafayette High, the scholarships for the all the students at Lafayette High was about 21, 22 million. So you can see that from the petition. These students love their school, and I hope you will pay attention to what they say and the impact, the fundamental impact it's had on their lives. Okay, and if I may talk to you as Melinda Mangum now.
Are you ill? Do you have multiple personalities?
I do. I really do. That's the frightening thing.
If there's anyone else that would like to speak or would like to yield their 3 minutes to Melinda Mangum and not Miss Mangum this time,
I'll do it quickly.
Go right ahead, please.
I think Ms. Hargrave says she's the oldest living person at Lafayette High, the one that's been there the longest.
Well, I told her that that I live next to the oldest living graduate from Lafayette High.
But when I started at Lafayette High, I had 15 seniors in my gifted class. The faculty at Lafayette High across the board has worked like Trojans to build this program. I think when I left Lafayette High, I had 25 seniors in that class. This has been work you cannot imagine. We didn't have books. I went into this community and knocked on doors. God bless Mr. Lamson's heart, Alfred Lamson, who helped. The doctors, the lawyers, the engineers that helped provide money. And once the district could buy, I could only buy books for my seniors every 2 years. I could order, and of course the editions were different. So I think my husband spent about $5,000 a year making copies on materials that we needed. I just cannot tell you how important Lafayette High is to the gifted program. It's the multi-potentiality not only of the students in the gifted program, but across the board at Lafayette High. Mr. Walker can tell you he had lots of my students in his band, and sometimes they would come late to my class because Mr. Walker kept them. And matter of fact, I had a counselor tell me one time, I'm just going to let you and Mr. Walker duke it out on students. So all of those programs are so integrated as one. There are some incredible former students in this room that want to speak to you, and I hope you will listen to what they say and how important this is. It seems to me that you all are looking for a problem where a problem doesn't exist. There's not a problem here. The problems are somewhere else. What can we do to help the other schools without taking the A school apart? The sense of community, the culture that is Lafayette High. And I cannot tell you how it impacts every phase of the community of Lafayette. For some reason, I was the person that Doc Smearsall and Dr. Leonard used to have come talk to parents when they were new coming into the community. They want to know that they have a school that provides what Lafayette High does. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mangum.
Ms. Mangum. Ms. Mangum.
We're going to actually ask you questions since we have the state's expert on gifted education with us.
There you go. I think I quote you when I wrote, I think you said verbatim, I cannot tell you how good Lafayette High is to the gifted program. I'd like to ask you to please briefly tell me how good Lafayette High is to the gifted program as opposed to the opposite, how good the gifted program is to Lafayette High.
I think it's both. I think it's reciprocal agreement there. That and most of our students in the gifted program are zone Lafayette High. I think the gifted program at Lafayette High, because of the rigor of the program, I think every other program steps up a notch. I mean, I think we all are on the same wavelength, but I think that excellence is what we're about across the board in everything we do, whether it's speech and debate, whether it's in our music programs, whether it's in our health academy. All of it is about athletics, whatever it is, How do we interact? How do we put these programs together, that interdisciplinary thing that happens at Lafayette High? So they serve one another. It's just, it's an impressive program. Somebody said that we have people from other districts come. We've had people from other states come to visit our classrooms to see what we do. We talked earlier about overcrowding. There are no more students at Lafayette High basically than there have ever been. We have a policy with which I totally disagree. Our seniors have to be on campus for maybe 1 or 2 classes. So that's 544 kids. That half of them aren't on campus but 1 hour a day, if that. And of course that really impacts whether they get scholarships or whether they get into colleges. So I'm very opposed to that program, but nonetheless, we don't have those 544 students on campus all day. Okay. Somebody else had a question?
I thought that Chasson raised this. Did you have a question? A product of our gifted program, I believe.
Correct. I couldn't go to Lafayette High, though. I tried my hardest.
And if I had known it was just because you didn't have a ride home, I would have
Have a ride
taken you.
home. I know. I know. Strangely enough, there was an activity bus. Do they still have the activity bus nowadays? There was an activity bus where one bus would just drive you and all your friends after football and basketball practice, one by one, to your house. And I lived on the north side of town, so that took forever. There's no more activity bus, right? Ms. Mangum, respectfully, I'm going to have to disagree with you.
Be very careful.
I know.
That's something from a former colleague,
oh, yeah,
yes?
No, I know. My former board member, and she gives me every bit of information that I ever need for anything. I think there actually is a problem, though. Where you say the problem doesn't exist, I think there is a problem in the rhetoric of the "if it ain't broke." We have to look at the root cause of why we're actually here tonight, and that root cause is that whether anybody wants to admit it or not, Lafayette High is overcrowded. It is. There's too many kids at that school, and if you've went there and you enjoyed your time, that's fine. I've had kids that have enjoyed their time, that have been point blank honest with me. The mother of my kids went to school there. My brother-in-law, who's lived with me all of my life. Is Lafayette High overcrowded? It's way overcrowded. Really? Yeah, there are kids that I haven't seen not once, but saw them in the final month of my senior year. How's that possible? Well, that's neither here nor there. So the reason that we're here is to discuss, okay, well, we've got a school that's overcrowded, in my opinion. Now, granted, it's someone's opinion. I think it's overcrowded. You've got 2,500 kids, it's overcrowded. We've got schools that are not even close to capacity. And I've said here tonight, and it's kind of bothered me a little bit, but I'm trying to keep the frown off of my face, but I still can't help it. And it's 2 schools that have the highest amount of kids on their campuses that are duking it out over a program, and these are great programs. I was in the program. Something's being left out of the mix, and I know everyone in the crowd won't want to hear this right now, but if Como has 1,800 kids, Mr. Craig, and they lose 900, that'll still leave them with 900. Now, granted, through attrition in the opposite direction, I mean, Como numbers will grow. But even at 900, that school still has 225 more kids than my high school. See, Northside only has 675 kids, and we have a capacity of 1,300. So with that being said, one of the programs needs to go to Northside. Now, if we're going to look at strictly the numbers, then we hold the trump card. And I'm not saying we, I'm talking for myself. But no one really wants to hear that right now. So to get back to the topic at hand, there's not going to be a single option tonight that everyone agrees on. There's not going to be one that has overwhelming consent and, oh, we decree, this is the one we want to go with. Eventually, the board members are going to have to decide, and right now we're having folks discuss. What I said earlier, I didn't mean to upset anyone. It's just I understand that if I want it, I want it, and I'm going to give you the reasons why something else should go. So we're doing the back and forth, and I understand it, but at the same time, something has to leave, or one of the other options, we have to shrink a zone. I don't agree with that either, because that's not fair to the kids that are actually in zone for that school. If we're going to go with that option, then we're going to have the opposite argument tonight of that we had a month ago of, well, I bought my house so I can go to school there, and that's not fair. So we're going to go back and forth, guys. I'm going to limit my conversation for now. I've got a million notes I've been taking. I'm sorry, Miss Mangum.
The grammar
that's,
goddess.
well, no, but that's my ebonics. I'm thinking taking. I mean, guys, for Academy of Legal Studies, there's 100 available slots, and 18 are filled at Northside. And I was looking at all the numbers, and I've got performing arts with 441 kids. I take those kids, I put them at Northside, we're at capacity. No one wants to hear that.
May I address your...
Well, hold on one second, Ms. Mangum. The Health Academy, 348 kids. I'm getting closer to 1,000. Business, 249. ECA, 239. My Academy of Broadcast has 24 kids at Northside. That's not anyone's fault. I'm not looking for sympathy.
Great radio station.
Not looking for sympathy. Legal Studies, we have 89 kids in the Academy.
And award-winning.
Yes. So with that, with all that being said, keep in mind what everyone's arguing about. If you want to go to school there, I understand. It works great. It works fine. But keep all of that in mind and keep the perspective of if it has to boil down to numbers, then an academy should go to Karen Crow High and Northside before they go anywhere else. And that's not even one of the possible options or things to even discuss. So let's just keep that in mind tonight. Please.
Ms. Morris?
I'm sorry, may I respond to what he said?
We'll recognize Ms. Morris, and then
Okay.
I'll let you speak one more time. Thank you, Ms. Mangum.
Thank you. I agree 100% with Dr. Chasson. There is a problem. We're building a new high school, and the reason we're doing that is to address a problem with the shift of the population to the south of the parish. And then there are a lot of other problems that follow along with that, with the movement of kids and programs. And I'm listening, and I understand the arguments being made about the unique culture at Lafayette High School. However, the programs themselves are independent and should be able to be picked up and put into any location in the district. You're shaking your head, but yes, they are absolutely independent. And if the board chooses to move a program to Northside High School or to Karen Crow, there'll be some transitional pains. People will not like it. It caused a lot of distress when the gifted program was sent to Paul Bro, but it is a highly successful program at this time. So those growing pains were something that people were able to handle. Culture is important, but that is part of group dynamics, and every time a new 9th grade class comes in, the group dynamics of every school changes. So if the board chooses to move any or all of these programs someplace else, they will survive, they will thrive, and people will adjust to it. All right. So I agree with Dr. Chasson that we're not just looking at Lafayette High School in a vacuum. We're looking at the entire district. And a lot of people will not be happy with the changes that the board will end up making at some point, which is going to include zoning and movement of programs. So a lot of people are going to have to make hard decisions. The board is going to have to make hard decisions. But I think it's important. And to kind of tag along with what Dr. Chasson said, I don't think I've made any secret of my personal view, and staff has not brought this to us as a proposal. But I think that moving the gifted program to Northside High School is an excellent idea. And I think it would thrive there, just like the middle school gifted program has thrived at Paulboro.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. Mr. Angel, I'm going to recognize Mr. Broussard and then come back to you.
May I respond?
Let me
go ahead.
Thank you. I feel the compassion with the Lafayette High parents, students, teachers, and whatnot, and I, like Dr. Chasson, I'm somewhat jealous because this proposal was put on the table before us, and it does not include Northside, Council. Well, I'm getting phone calls from my constituents. Why aren't we included in that? With this less than 700 students at Northside, they are begging for students to attend. But I've got to say, with the school of choice and everything we've got in place, it put a wedge in our students and where we attend. We apply for the school of choice, and I understand Lafayette has 5 of them. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we get in with one of them. If we don't want to go to the school that's nearest, we've got a clause that say if you are within a mile or less, we are not obligated to transport you to school. But if you stay 25 miles from the school you want to go to, we are obligated to do that. And I think somewhere we've dropped the ball on maintaining the school of choice and maintaining the balance of students per school. We have lost that. So with the new school intact in the next year, 2017, I think we have, as a board and as a group of people, have to sit down and see how we want to balance the 1,500 students per school, per high school, like we stated about a year or so ago. That was our goal. We cannot leave out Northside High, Council High, and the STEM Academy, who has the lights on, the air conditioning running, we're paying for it, but there are empty classrooms. So I don't know why Northside of Council or STEM Academy was not included in this move. I can see the move east and west be more financially feasible for us than north and south. To pick up a student north of Council because that student wants to be in a school of choice to study whatever, and it's not a problem with that. We have to transport that child 25 miles to Southside High School or Como High School, passing up Council High, pass up Northside, pass Lafayette High, to bring that student, not students, that student 20, 25 miles away. But then next month, we're going to ask to cut a teacher's pay. Got to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Broussard, and I'll recognize you again, Ms. Mang.
Thank you. When the gifted program was first established in this parish, no principal would take it. Doc Smearsaw was the one that reached out and volunteered to start doing a pilot program. The reason it has been so, and the academies were done for a certain reason, and they were put on campuses, and the teachers, the faculty, stepped up and have made these programs work. At Lafayette High, the reason that that's the place for Lafayette High to be, with all the different things that are there, the multipotentiality of the students in the gifted program are addressed, as well as the other students on that campus. It is just crucial that a gifted program has that. What I hear you all saying is we've built a new school and now we have empty seats. Somebody made a decision to do this without thinking of the consequences. And I ask you, why is it Lafayette High that has to pay for that decision? Thank you.
Mr. Angel, I'll let you two decide. He was next in line.
I'll defer to Dr. Chessel.
Thank you, Mr. Angel.
Ms. Mangum, no, it's
No. We will not have this turn into a debate, a back and forth debate.
Respectfully, no one is paying for the decision. That it's a benefit that we were able to get a high school built.
Wonderful, but I don't.
Right, but wait 1 second, Ms. Mangum. I'm just okay. I apologize. I'll address my comments to the audience. It's amazing. A school is being built. We broke ground. No one at Lafayette High. No one is on punishment for what's taking place. Lafayette High. My daughter's in French immersion. My daughter's in the gifted program. My daughter wants to be in the health academy. We're still on the waiting list. I hope she gets in. It benefits her to be at one school. If anybody understands that, I do. It benefits her to be at one school for the multi-potentiality. But the problem is that one program and all the immersions and the other program and the other program has created the biggest high school in the state. We need a brand new Lafayette High School. Yes, ma'am. We need a brand new Lafayette High. And
Ms. Mangum.
And seeing as that we know all of these things, there's still too many kids at that school because the programs, just the programs, not the fact that we're building Southside High School, the programs are pulling multiple kids from multiple. I can see Northside from my backyard. I can see J.W. Falk from my front yard. And the little girl that lives across the street is going to go to Lafayette High, Megan, for the gifted program. And my daughter is probably, hopefully, going to go to Lafayette High for the gifted program and the immersions in the health academy. But it's pulling multiple students away from schools that have now created multiple problems. The problems are Northside is 51% at capacity. That's a tremendous problem that if one academy, one that would draw kids to the school would be placed there, then it would solve that problem, but yet also alleviate a problem that Lafayette High has. One academy, just one. Pick one. But no one can pick one, and we're inevitably going to have to pick one. Or we can decrease the zone. Not fair to the other kids there. There's a number of things that can occur. We have to discuss them. I know everyone understands. No one wants to see any program leave. So something else that benefits, I've talked about the health academy. Well, let's say Northside, the gifted program. I was a gifted kid, went to school there, amazing school. Other gifted kids didn't want to catch the activity bus. There were 4 of us total. And then, wait, hold on a second. The Northside High principal, she was a gifted teacher. Well, I don't know if we ever had a gifted principal / teacher, but we have that in place at Northside. Right now, she knows how it works. Taught gifted math, understands it inside and out. When I mention it to her, like I at least have to bring it up because it's worth mentioning. She said, please. But the benefit of all of this switching is that it isn't the individual schools that are making these programs amazing. It's the kids that have been tested for gifted in 1st grade and 2nd grade And when they sent me to Myrtle Place, and then they sent me to Paul Bro, we make the program amazing. We've got amazing teachers, but it's the gifted kids. I had kids that were taking the ACT test in 7th grade. What is that kid doing? What is Ben Domain doing taking the ACT? That's amazing. He made a 33. He's in the 7th grade. I'm confused. Two more points. I'm going to let the discussion get back to where everyone's here thought the focus would be tonight. I'm going to allow that to happen. If something is moved and it happens to be performing arts, an auditorium will be built. State of the art. Has to be. No matter where it goes, it has to be built. If something moves to Como and something is missing, we have to build it. I'll tell you ahead of time. So it will be built. It has to. But everyone keep in mind, whenever we talk about all of these academies and school of choices and everything, and I hear the word auditions, it bothers me to my core, because then it's not really a lottery, it's a competition.
You just have to show up with an instrument.
So with that being said, so the fact that there are schools of choice, and I hear your comments, there are schools of choice that have the auditions and then can then select students.
I would say please hold your comments down from the audience.
Listen. Respectfully, I've been on the board for 5 years. This is something that has been an extreme bother of mine. I know it happens. I know for a fact it has happened, where students are actually selected based upon their capabilities. Now, it's not a lottery then, it's a competition. Something that staff that I'm gonna formally charge them with taking a hard look at, because if you have kids that show up, we all want a lottery spot, but then why go to an audition? If you won the lottery spot, then you get to go to the school there. So then there's no real point in having the audition. But right. Well, wait. Respectfully, guys. I know I'm speaking and I'm looking in this direction. Maybe I'll look in a different direction. I'm not specifically speaking.
Dr. Chasson,
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
1 second, please. If anyone in the audience would like to speak, please go to the microphone. This is not a back and forth discussion. This is a commenting period. The school board would love to hear your thoughts, but we must have order so that everyone at home can hear what you have to say. Thank you. Dr. Chasson, please continue.
Directly from a director's mouth. Well, I choose specific kids. I mean, listen, if you're going to go to an audition for dance, let's say, and I see an amazingly talented dancer, she is amazing. She needs to be in that particular academy. It only makes sense. But if at that point a child is chosen over another one, then it ceases to be a lottery, because that child was chosen over another. So then inevitably there was no point in having the auditions. Just a point that I'm making to everyone, that there are things that we still need to fix. The kids make the academies, not the other way around. Amazing teachers, amazing kids, and we're only addressing this not for us building Southside High School, just simply because an amazing school with a lot of amazing programs have taken a lot of amazing kids away from other amazing schools. And we need to repopulate those schools. So something has to leave. Number one, an academy. Or number two, we have to change the zone. Or you make it a magnet academy, and then you still decrease the zone, then you keep all of the academies there. But then it's not fair to the individual kids that are in that particular zone that you have now, where it was 900, you've made it 600. That's not fair to any of those kids.
Thank you, Dr. Chasson. Mr. Angel.
Thank you. I want to really speak to the board, speak to my fellow board members, as well as the public in the audience. But I understand the passion at where we go to school. I want my fellow board members to know that I too have passion. And there are 5 academies at Lafayette High School. And at the elementary level, I'll pick on 2 of them. One is Paul Bro, wonderful students, great group of kids, and they get to go to Paul Bro for a year or 2, and then they ship to Lafayette High. The gifted. There happens to be another one at Karen Crow Middle. Excuse me. When I was teaching, there was no such thing as middle. What you mean I'm dating? I don't remember 25 years ago when they redid Lafayette High. I was too young. No, Karen Crow Middle has a great has a great precursor, if you will, a feeder program for the Health Academy. Wonderful students, some of the brightest and the best. Same is true over at Paul Bro, some of the best and the brightest. Same is true at some of the French immersion, some of the best and the brightest. And the same is true at all of the other programs that feed the 5 academies, all housed at Lafayette High School. And the problem, you talk about a problem, I agree with you, Dr. Chassel, you talk about it as a big problem. All of the great things, like one student can, feed off of another one and learn from another one. It's done at the expense of all the other schools in Lafayette Parish. You can't do it at Karen Crow because there's no gifted. There's no health academy. You can't feed off of the ensemble or the band because we don't have any. We don't have that academy. The same is true at Northside. Same is true at Acadiana High School. Same is true at Como High School. What's going on? All of the greatness about it is done at an expense to the rest of the schools in this parish. And that's my problem. And I think it's a terrible problem that we're sucking some of the best and the brightest from all the other schools, and we have one A school. I think Karen Crow's a D, Northside's a D school. I think Acadiana's a C, Como's a C. Is it a C? We could all be better. We could all be better if we shared some of this wealth. All of the students in all of our schools would like to be able to associate, trade ideas, exchange views, exchange ideas with some of these other students in these great, great programs. It just seems to me that we should have a little bit of equality, and we should share some of this great wealth, this vast knowledge, all of which, or most of which, is at one place. What's wrong with the rest of us? We deserve some of that. And I'm going to do everything I can so that all of our schools can participate in some of the vast wealth of knowledge that exists at one place.
Thank you, Mr. Argel. Ms. Morrison?
Make the point. I mean, for the past 2 hours, I've been listening to everything you have to say. And Dr. Chastain, you hit it on the head. What makes your programs is your students and your teachers. It doesn't matter where they are. It's going to work and it's going to happen, and they will be successful. Not making any changes, we cannot grow. We have to change so we can spread the wealth, like Mr. Angel said. We have to spread the wealth and give other schools opportunities. So if you have everything just in one school, you're limiting your opportunities for growth. No one likes change. But when you change, sometimes you have an opportunity for growth. And always remember, as long as we have the combination that you need, an auditorium or whatever you need for a health academy, no matter where it is, if you have those students and those teachers, it's going to be successful. It will be. So just kind of be open-minded to what these challenges we have, and we have to address. We have to do something. And be open about it, and think about the other schools that could benefit, the other children that can benefit, that really needs our support to be able to take part in these opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morrison. Mr. Latchley, and then Mr. Hidalgo.
And like I said, nobody hates change worse than I do. Can I speak to maybe Dr. Aguilar and the board on a what if? We talked about capping the programs a little earlier. I'm going to make a what if. Don't take anything from this, okay? This is a what if. Let's say the Health Academy stays at Lafayette High, okay? And you draw down the zone a little bit, and Lafayette High is at 1,900 students. You take performing arts, you bring it to Como, tie it in with visual arts. You build auditorium. We're not going to move a program and leave it to die. We're going to work, and we're going to build an auditorium, we're going to build labs, so forth and so on. Now, Como's at, I don't know, 1,400. Can these programs now add students? You have the room at Como. You've drawn down the enrollment at Lafayette High to 1,900. You get it back up to 200. Can you now allow more kids into the Health Academy and add programs into the Health Academy? Can you not add programs into the new performing arts? You see, let's not worry about capping. If you move something and you spread it out and you give these incoming students the things they need to be successful, how great would it be to have a brand new auditorium at Como with piano labs or string rooms or whatever we call them, band rooms and so forth and so on. And then it frees up room at Lafayette High. Now, what can the Health Academy at Lafayette High do? I had this conversation with Dr. Thornton, just in conversation, just thinking out loud of adding kinesiology, things of this nature. It was not my idea. You know, having these academies grow. You cannot grow at Lafayette High. You can't. I want to see more students be able to take advantage of our academies, ECA, David STEM, Performing Arts, Health Academy. Right now, with the oil field the way it is, I think the Health Academy ought to grow, not be capped. It cannot grow at Lafayette High. Okay, open up another campus with the Health Academy. Now you have a split Health Academy. Keep it together. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I'm looking at things. I want to do things. You know how, has anybody ever said, why wasn't Ambassador Caffrey 6 lane instead of 4? Where's the loop? Why are politicians always 30 years behind the time? You know, I keep using the phrase, we are that board. We are that board that wants to make a difference. We have a chance right now to pay it forward for education. The impact of some of what we'll do now may not be seen for 10 years, and we're all out of office. And it doesn't matter who gets credit for it. But what if we can grow these programs, grow the amount of children, students that can enter these programs, how much bigger and better we'll be. Because one day Lafayette Parish needs, how many high schools do we have? 6, or we'll have 6. 8 schools. That is possible. And that's my direction. If we can't do something to grow something or make it better, then don't do nothing at all. But I think the Health Academy could grow at Lafayette High. I think Performing Arts could grow wherever it's put. Or if Performing Arts stays in the Health Academy moves. And like I said, this is just a what if, me thinking out loud and letting y'all listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Latchley. Mr. Hidalgo, you've been waiting patiently.
Thank you very much.
As has Ms. Mangum.
First of all, fellow board members, I believe and agree with pride. In fact, this is the closest I can get to, you know, my support of Lafayette High right here tonight. I didn't go to Lafayette High, but I believe and agree with pride. But I'm going to tell you, I take serious issue with the suggestion that building Southside High School was ill-planned. The suggestion that building Southside High School was a mistake or a problem. This board has done nothing but plan well since we've been in office. And I challenge anybody to challenge me on that. The problem here is that we have a wonderful thing we're doing in Southside High School. And we have to make adjustments to accommodate. We could have built Southside High School right next door to Lafayette High. And it would not change the problem we have at Lafayette High. In fact, I submit that if we'd have built Southside High School next door to Lafayette High, we wouldn't be hearing anything about a culture implement at Lafayette High. They would probably gladly move over to the next door, the brand new facility. I take issue with these comments that are made. We have a problem. We have more than 30,000 students that deserve the same level of education as any student at Como, Karen Crowe, or Lafayette High that we have to deliver services to. So we need to, I wish we can take the emotions out of this, although it doesn't look like we're going to be able to. But we have to figure out what's going to work best. You alluded to it, Mr. Angel. We have 30,000 plus students that deserve the same level of education as any student at any high school, including Lafayette High. And you know what? I don't represent Lafayette High. I do have constituents who have who have children in some of the programs. I respect that. I appreciate that. But just as many of these other programs you all mentioned tonight have been moved to undesirable places, and they are all every program we have is thriving. Do we have, Dr. Aguilar, do we have a program, do we have an academy in this system that is not thriving?
I don't think so. Every school of choice has applicants. So it would be unfair to say that they're not attracting students.
So the point I'm trying to make is, if we can't take the emotions out of it, let's at least make an attempt to take away accusations and suggestions that the building of a new high school is a bad thing. That is unfortunately a ridiculous suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Hidalgo, for that most dispassionate set of comments there.
I think, Mr. Hidalgo,
Aren't you glad you waited now? Because I'm sure you have much more that you have to say.
I think Mr. Hidalgo was talking to Ms.
And Ms. Mangum, I will enforce the 3 minutes on this one, because I think this is about your fourth time.
But about 10 of y'all have spoken, and I was specifically addressed.
Right, but this is our meeting.
So I get that. I get that. And I was not saying that Southside was a bad school. When we make decisions, we have to consider consequences and unintended consequences, and that was the only point I'm making when Mr. Dr. Chasson spoke directly to me. When the academies were started, the gifted program was already at Lafayette High. It was a small program. Lafayette High willingly took every academy that was offered and said, let's see what we can do with it. My issue on this is we've spent incredible dollars at other schools. Northside has gotten a wonderful, I think it's a legal academy. Why are we not focusing on how we make those better? The teachers, the faculty, the staff at Lafayette High work like Trojans. Our health academy, those people that worked in that. Our music and arts programs are unbelievable, but that's the core of the faculty that got together and did that. Don't penalize this school because we've been successful. That is all I'm asking.
Thank you, Ms. Mangum. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jessica Yeager. I am a 2007 graduate of the Lafayette High Gifted Program. I received scholarships for my undergrad programs. I went to law school at LSU, and I'm now an attorney here in Lafayette. I have a few things I'd like to say and address. First of all, I think that when we're talking about the quality of education across the board, I agree. I think it's very important. Louisiana is not known for its educational quality. I mean, we're ranked, very low in the country, and that is a problem. Moving programs that are stellar programs that produce leaders and activists, that produce professionals, that produce artists, moving these working programs to distribute them to other schools in the assumption that that move will create, it'll pull the numbers up for those schools, but we'll get rid of an A school and have a whole bunch of B and C schools. Why aren't we focusing on the programs that need to be focused on? Why aren't we bolstering regular education classes and giving them more resources, giving the teachers in them better training? There are better answers to, I think, the problems that we're having. And I'd also like to address the fact that I don't think the community's backlash regarding property values on houses is something that needs to be considered when your primary objective is supposed to be the educational quality of all students. I think that might be a secondary concern, but I think it's pretty important that we remember what our primary goal is in electing all of you. I'd also like to say that the potential of the kids is definitely something in any program that allows it to be created. But it's the opportunity that teachers who invest in the program and who invest in their students create for those kids with potential. I think we need to find the potential that other students have in these other programs and in these other schools and put our resources there in order to increase the educational quality. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yeager. And we are going to take a short break after we finish this particular option.
Okay, Dr. Greg Roban, Director of the PAA. I just want to clear up a little bit about the audition process for schools of choice, because when we're talking about data and we're talking about numbers, we need to make sure we understand exactly the data. The Schools of Choice program for music allows 20% merit if there are slots available in the program to award merit. As you see with the Performing Arts Academy numbers, we don't have slots available, so we don't get to choose students. The audition process is to level students, right? So if you come into a math class and you've already taken Algebra 1, we're not going to put you in basic math. Right? So the audition process lets me, the teacher, look at the guitar student and say, this student is best served in a beginner's level. This student is really, really advanced and he's to be in a high level. It doesn't matter what their grade is, it matters where they come into the program. It's differentiated learning. We serve all students where they are and put them where they need to succeed. We don't tell them where they go. We don't hand select them. We listen to them perform and assume through our knowledge that they are a beginner, an intermediate, or an advanced student. So it's in the best interest of the academy to audition the students so that we can place them. And the merit process is schools of choice. I don't have any control over that, but I've been at Lafayette High 5 years, and I've never had a merit student because we always fill up all our slots from LJ Alamo and the other students that come in. So I just wanted to clarify that data. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roban. Mr. Angel?
Yeah, I just want to make another quick comment. There are 5 other high schools in this parish besides Lafayette High School, and in my opinion, all of the teachers at all of the other high schools work as hard as Trojans as well.
Thank you, Mr. Angel. Yes.
I actually have a question for the board and Dr. Aguilar. And I'm going to kind of preamble just a little bit. I was wondering if you guys have looked at other school districts in other states and throughout Louisiana that have very successful programs. I'm thinking particularly of a lot of Texas school districts where the schools are quite large. Lafayette High in a Texas school district would be a very normal size. And I think that there is something to be said for having a large number of students in a school. Not that there aren't problems associated with that in our school district right now as it stands, but when you have 2,500 kids in a place, you have some kids who are excellent flute players, but maybe are terrible at math. You have some kids who are a gifted student who always wanted to play the violin and decides to take violin as an elective. And so I think that what we're all kind of trying to say is that the number of students that we have allows us to meet the needs of the individual student, because they can be in computer programming class for an elective, they can be in gifted classes, they can be taking AP this, and they can maybe in their science class be getting remediation, or maybe they're an ESL student, or maybe they're in some other program that we have. And I'm just wondering if what might make sense is to you, instead of trying to fill these seats by spreading ourselves, if it might make sense to take some of these places that have smaller enrollment to combine them, so that, you know, at Northside High, there might be somebody who is an excellent violinist who didn't get in to Lafayette High. But if you took all of those students at multiple schools and kind of combine them to make schools of a larger size, we might be able to allocate our resources a little bit better. I was just wondering, or maybe there's other solutions to be found too, looking at other successful school districts around the country and even like next door in Texas. So I just wanted to pose that question to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, you got a question for it? Go ahead.
Tell me your name. I'm sorry.
Molly Goforth.
Miss Goforth. Exactly. I couldn't. I've been jotting down notes trying to articulate my thoughts because I know I'm coming off quite negative right now. What you said finally registered something for me. That's the thought I've been trying to get across. The fact that all the programs are, the fact that since there are so many that are at Lafayette High, the numbers have to be capped. So the fact that that Northside violinist couldn't get into the program, it's what Lafayette High has ultimately created in the totality of the entire situation. The Health Academy, when you see a 0 for available slots for the Health Academy, well, they're full and there are kids on the waiting list. So the fact that Lafayette High is so packed, those kids will never get into the program. So those kids end up getting their secondary choice, the third choice, or they go to their home zone school. But if Lafayette High, if the Health Academy was at a school, whether it's still at Lafayette High or another school, then the 65 kids that are on the waiting list right now for the Health Academy, they could get in and they would thrive. That's 65 smart, intelligent kids that won't get to realize their goals of being in the Health Academy because the Health Academy is at Lafayette High. If you moved it, now there's room. If you leave it there and move something else, well, now there's room, because we keep talking about, okay, we didn't cap it, or we're not capping it. Ultimately, when the number is 100, it's capped. But if it was 150 or 200, then it's still capped, but it's a higher cap. Therefore, it allows kids to get into the program. But we can't go over 100. Why? Because we've already got 2,500 kids at that school and we have nowhere else to put them. So it's approaching the same problem from different angles. I hope everyone understands truly what I'm saying here. There are kids that aren't getting into the programs. My daughter can't get into the program. Am I making this argument for her? No. Because I think the program needs to either move or something else needs to move. That's what makes sense to me. Therefore, Ms. Jennifer, if you can handle 50 more kids, 100 more kids, she's smiling and saying, yeah. If you can handle more kids, then all those kids can get in. There's 65 kids right now waiting. We're number 6 on that list. Hoping and praying. Fingers crossed. But if you... it's a lottery. It is a lottery. Yeah. It's not by audition because her doctor dad would have got her in. Or her school board member dad. So if she gets in, no one says anything. No. But if we could open up slots, free it up, move a program here and there. Somebody mentioned the primary objective. The primary objective right now is that overcrowded versus schools that are empty. Guys, 675 kids versus we're supposed to have 1,300. So if we could take the heartfelt emotions out of all of this and just look at it for what it is. I said this at the last meeting. Paulboro Middle School is in the hood. Paulboro is right there. My mom lives on South Magnolia. That's the hood. I know where the drug dealers are. I know where they're going to be. They live on the back street. But it's the heartfelt emotion of, please don't take that program from Lafayette High. But it's the same reason why folks didn't want to go to Paulboro in the first place. Now folks just travel to Paulboro and don't even realize that, man, you just passed through Crop, Fightonville maybe, Vise, and you're in the heart of Macomb. You're in the heart of Macomb. Miss Mangum, excuse my English, but you're in the hood. I'm telling you, you're in the hood. So no one argues about that now because it's understood. That's just where you go to school. But when we possibly have to look at maybe even moving some kids from Paulboro, I expect to see the same amount of parents like, don't move the program works well. The program will work well wherever it goes because it's amazing teachers, amazing students, amazing faculty, and it is what it is. But since we're looking at Lafayette High, I expect folks to do it because if you tell me you're going to rip my child out from that particular school, even if they're graduating or they're incoming, I went to Waffle House. I think I saw the lady in here. She, point blank, she stopped eating and asked me everything that she could ask me about what's going on. Why are you moving? My kid is going into the 9th grade performing arts. I need to know where she's going to school. I didn't have an answer. And her heart felt, well, she just wants to go to Lafayette High. I understand it, but something's got to move, guys. I just like to say that.
Thank you, Dr. Chasson. Mr. Hidalgo.
Dr. Chasson, one of the beauty parts of this is, if I'm not mistaken, if anything, if we vote to move anything, I don't think it impacts anybody that's currently at the school, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that when we talk about capacity issues, we're really not talking about the core of the facility. You know, we're building Southside High School to accommodate 2,000 students, the core of the facility, the restrooms, the administrative offices, etc. Well, I understand what the administration wants, and I respect what the administration wants, but what is the sacrifice gonna be to get what we want and keep everything at Lafayette High? It's not a good environment. I wish that we could put more money into Lafayette High and make it better, but I'm not gonna vote to put more Butler buildings anywhere, including Lafayette High, and it would take rebuilding the school a lot larger than it is to accommodate all of these wonderful things that are happening there, and we just simply can't do that right now. And so we're trying to work with we're trying to work with what we have to the best of our ability. And I think that we need to talk more about the core of Lafayette High School and people say it's not overcrowded. I too disagree with that. If you look at all aspects, if you look at the core of the facility, I'm not suggesting you can't put another vehicle and or another student there. Excuse me. I'm not suggesting that you can't cram another vehicle and or another student there, but the core of the facility is also a problem. And so we have all of these Trojans working in a dump, and we have to address this.
Thank you, Mr. Hidalgo. Do you have anything further? I know Dr. Chasson called you back.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I think my basic point is when you put a large number of students together, 2,000 students, 2,500 students, it doesn't matter where they come from or what school they're at. To me, it doesn't matter. The issue is the sheer number of that number of students. If you have that many students, you're going to have a certain percentage that do this well, that do this other thing medium, that you get like this general percentage across the board. And having that many students in one place allows Lafayette High to have a band program with 300 students in it and a top band of 65 of the best of those students that goes to national competition. It allows us to have a choir program. I don't know how many students you have. 260 students with a top choir of 40 that can go and be the only high school ever from Louisiana to go to a nationally or regional convention for choir. It allows the strings program to have over 60 students in it, and for my top group to have 18. It allows us to differentiate the learning. And so I guess what I'm asking is, why can't we have a bunch of schools with 2,000 students in it? Just like all of the schools have 2,000 students, so we can have all of these programs at all of our schools instead of once you start pulling out these students, you start messing up the percentages across the board, which is what makes Lafayette High work. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll recognize Dr.
Well,
Dr.
just
Roban. I think there's some people in line ahead of you.
While they're stepping up, I want to say that that's very reasonable logic. That makes a lot of sense. But I think that on the flip side of that coin is that would suggest maybe that's why Northside High School scores are so low. They don't have enough students there. And so we need to start looking at making some
Coach
movement.
Bio. Let's wait.
No, go ahead. That's awesome.
By all means.
I'll be really quick.
It's a relative statement there.
You could still have, by my standards. You could still have that amazing choir at another school. And you could still have that amazing health academy at another school. And all those kids that would still attend those schools with those same teachers would make all of those schools just as amazing. And yet still, you could still get in 65 more kids because they're not all at one school.
Coach Bio. That was very quick.
Thank y'all for listening to this evening. My name is Brandon Bio. I am one of the Health Academy facilitators at Lafayette High. I teach the incoming freshmen to IHO. And Dr. Chasson, I sure hope your daughter gets in. If she's top 10, that's usually a good number to be in, but, you know, we can always hold our breath. Back in 2003, when the Health Academy was first proposed and being locations, there was a community task force set to where the location would be. And I know each high school was allocated a certain academy and so forth. And one of the recommendations from the community was for it to be centrally located at Lafayette High School. So I'm going to take the emotions out of it and just kind of give you some facts, because I know that this school board relies on the voices of the community, especially for voting purposes and taxes and all these other things. We continue to have that same task force on a board at Lafayette High School. And these are people who are business owners. They are also instructors at local facilities at Acadian Ambulance. One of our former board members was the former CEO at Southwest Medical Center, Mr. Steve Jones. All those people were extremely adamant about it being at Lafayette High School for a central location. It has, in the last year or so now, Southwest Medical Center, I keep calling it Southwest. I know they've changed it now because Lafayette General has taken it over. But we do have students that do internship at Lafayette General, which hopefully in the near future will have Southwest on board as well. It used to be owned by a parent hospital, HCA. It's no longer that. So, you know, like I said, I'm trying to take the emotions out of it and just give you facts that, you know, it was based at Lafayette High based on the recommendations of the community leaders. I think on our board we still have other of those leaders. We do have a parent now involved on our board. Southwest is no longer affiliated with, but we hope to get them back into the loop. But my point is this: it's the community that decided it to be at Lafayette High, and some of the board members had said, you know, it can be successful at other places, and I'm 100% agreeing that, because I know that it's not just the kids at Lafayette High, it's the people who actually do the work the day to day. And if you tell me to teach in a closet, I can still teach a kid healthcare in a closet. But, you know, like I said, the emotional part of it, I'm trying to, you know, just kind of keep out of it. One quick thing, too, I want to talk about facilities. Back whenever the performing arts became, after, I want to say it was like 07, 08, I'm not exactly sure, the facilities had to be kind of upgraded. One of the facilities for the dance room was actually the wrestling room. There was no basically interest in wrestling at all, so the kind of room got converted into a room. If we were to move, hypothetically, to Como High, would we have a facility? All I hear talk about is an auditorium being built for performing arts, but you know, I was here 12 years ago when we actually moved into that new building, and it's 5 Butler buildings in one, and somebody suggests, well, we just hook up to a truck and drag it over there. I don't think it'll make past Foreman. I'm just being honest with you. So, you know, I can teach in a closet. I can do that. But You know, like I said, it's the community that decided it to be at Lafayette High. It wasn't me, and we make it work. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. And I'll tell you, for any of you who have not seen that Health Academy building that he's talking about, it's a feat of modern engineering. They somehow fused together Butler buildings and created a hallway and bathrooms. And like they said, they like Ms. Morrow said earlier, they done took the wheels off the house already. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Christine McCrory. I'm a gifted teacher at Lafayette High School. And I would like to get back to the agenda item, which would be adding additional gifted services at Como High School. As a gifted teacher, I've compiled some interesting information that I would like to share with the board. For the past 30 years, we've been offering gifted services at Lafayette High School, and we feel very confident that we have created a brand of the gifted program coming from Lafayette High School. I know the point was made that we have some students who come in from Paulboro. I think it also needs to be pointed out that we bring in gifted students from private schools. We bring in gifted students from LJ Alamo. We bring in gifted students from Woodvale. They come in from other areas just to come to Lafayette High's gifted program. You do not have to stay in gifted services the entire time that you've been identified as gifted. So you might be identified in the first grade. You might stay till fifth grade, get out for a couple years, and come back. And we feel like it's very important for you to understand that that's a brand that's been created at our school. Our average ACT score for this year's senior class is a 29. If you compare that to other area schools, ESA, which has selective admissions, also has an average ACT score of 29. We had 6 national merit finalists this year in our senior class, and we have one student, I don't know why this hasn't been publicized, that had a perfect 36 on his ACT. I would also like to speak logistically about how this would work. If you add services, that means that you're dividing our program. Currently, we have 4 core teachers. We have 4 teachers for each core subject. So that would mean 2 social studies at Lafayette High, 2 social studies at Como. That would effectively mean we offer right now, I have it somewhere, 7 social studies gifted classes. I might not be right on that. But I don't know how effectively you could ask someone to teach 3 or 4 different preps and continue to offer the same caliber of education that we are offering right now. It's physically impossible. We're a nationally recognized program, and I think that it's very important to understand that what we've built up, I know Ms. Mangum addressed where our graduates have been. In 2 days, I've gotten over 200 graduates to tell us about what they've done, and it is amazing what they've accomplished. And when those university counselors see Lafayette High gifted program, that means something to them. So I would respectfully ask that you consider all of these factors when thinking about adding services or moving the gifted program. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Leah Dugas, and I am the gifted lead teacher at Lafayette High School.
I've been waiting to meet you, Ms. Dugas. Let me interrupt and tell you guys a quick story, right? So the school board members, evidently Ms. Dugas is such a wonderful teacher that she, a few weeks ago, was covering argumentative essays in her English 3 class. Is that correct, Ms. Dugas?
Yes, sir.
And one of her students, who I won't say her name, took the opportunity to email her essay to each and every one of us right here.
I believe a few of them did.
Well, I don't know. More than one did? Okay. All right. So this young lady, and she had some very fine arguments, but as I think a lot of young people are, they're very firm in their beliefs and maybe don't leave a lot of room for disagreement or the opposing viewpoint. And so I took the opportunity, being a gifted kid myself, because I think I understand the gifted mindset. I printed out her paper and I started circling points that I disagreed with and wrote notes in the margin. I scanned it and I emailed it back to her with some remarks about, if you find people, in order to be persuasive, you have to give people room to disagree without making them feel like you think they're an idiot. And I thought that was the lesson to take, because in so much of all this, it's how we disagree with each other that helps everyone arrive at a good solution. So with that said, I forwarded it to Ms. Dugas, and she said, you know what I'll do is I'll share the essays with you, since you're one of the targets of the arguments. I'll share the essays with you. And she shared, I don't know, 40 or 50 of them, something like that. And I spent a Saturday evening and a Sunday morning going through these essays and leaving comments and saying what I thought to be persuasive and maybe what I thought to be less than persuasive. And so I actually look forward to hearing how the students took the comments, because I'm sure they said, what does this guy know?
Well, I'm not going to really address that right now. The gifted teachers at Lafayette High did do a bit of research on our own, and we did talk to Dr. Christine Briggs, who is a gifted professor at UL, and some of this information does come from Dr. Briggs, so I just wanted to make sure that I give her credit for her points. She noted that the gifted program should remain at Lafayette High School together for a variety of reasons. For one, Lafayette High provides a broad range of services to meet the individual needs of gifted students. The gifted program is special education, and gifted students do have special needs. And Lafayette High is able to meet those needs by providing additional AP courses, and I have a list of the course offerings that Christine was referring to, but I think we have 29 total. In addition, we have several AP courses that are there, which our gifted students often take. The majority of those classes are filled with gifted students. In addition to AP courses, the students can go beyond the levels typically offered in high school through the Health Academy, through the Performing Arts Academy, through the chorus, through the band, through the wide variety of clubs offered at Lafayette High. I'm the yearbook advisor at Lafayette High. I know how many clubs we have because I have to do a page on each of them. We have just a plethora for them to choose from. And so if a gifted child needs to fit in, which is part of the social and emotional needs of the gifted, there are so many facets provided to them at Lafayette High. Some other research is dealing with the role of identity with gifted children. This must be incorporated into the gifted instruction, and it's important that they have peers of similar abilities to allow for making connections to like experiences, preferences, strengths, and interests, and this is all based on research from Dr. Briggs. Peers who reflect oneself are essential during adolescence, as more than half of a high schooler's waking hours are spent with peers and their peer groups. And so to separate this gifted program would be detrimental in that aspect. So what happens at Lafayette High in the gifted program is a subculture is created in which these students do have this role of identity fostered. I just wanted to add that I'm also a parent of gifted students. I have one graduate, one senior at Lafayette High School, and a fourth grader at Broadmoor in the gifted program. So I really do understand that it's important for them to fit in and have different outlets to meet their needs as gifted children.
Thank you, Ms.
Any
Dugas.
questions? No? Thank you. Yes. The ACT, according to Mrs. Mangum, if we remove the gifted ACT scores at Lafayette High still has a higher average than the national average.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're now the sixth person that Ms. Mangum has spoken through tonight. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Mushmack. I am a gifted teacher at Lafayette High School. I originally planned a speech about splitting the gifted program, but the conversation has really changed dramatically. So I took a few notes, and I thought I'd just address a few points that people had made concerning splitting the gifted program or moving the gifted program. One of the things that really hurt me is somebody mentioned that the programs are very mobile. And this, to me, represents a misunderstanding of the importance of the synergy that's created between the band, between the gifted, between Health Academy, and between Performing Arts Academy. I teach the band after school. I'm an instructor. And inside of my section, I have Health Academy kids, gifted kids, I have performing arts students, and I have students that are not in any academy. And these kids work together to perform something that's really amazing. Lafayette High School is nationally known for the band program, and it's just in general a very, very good school. Another person mentioned that students will not suffer from any of these changes. And again, I'd have to disagree on the same point, that we simply cannot offer the same gifted services because we don't meet all the needs of students unless we're in this program together. We offer 29 courses for gifted students with 16 teachers total. 29 courses with 16 teachers. One person mentioned that maybe all schools should have a piece of the gifted program. This would essentially be 4 teachers per school. The number of courses, maybe 10. This would water down the entire program in order to provide equality. Another thing that's very important to mention is I've done some legwork considering a similar program in East Baton Rouge Parish. I student taught at McKinley High School's gifted program. At that time, the gifted program was the only one in East Baton Rouge. The program was very good, and it was well known to be a very good program. There was a debate similar to this one, to spread the wealth. They split the program between Woodlawn and McKinley. The program at Woodlawn has 100 students in East Baton Rouge, where there are 730 students identified as gifted. McKinley only has 300. A plurality of students at EBR deny gifted services. And I would be very, very scared to see the same thing happen in Lafayette. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Dr. Robin, last swipe on this,
oh, yes,
on this one,
this
okay?
is my last swipe.
All right.
But it's not a swipe. What we're talking about is education, and when I'm representing my academy, I'm representing my students' welfare and their overall education from going from what they are offered to potentiality. And when you look at building an auditorium, you're talking $2 to $3 million in 2 years or so. It took like 2 years to build a closet at Lafayette High. Okay, they're like 5, and I'm not complaining, they're really nice, but it took a really, really long time to build the facilities. Okay, and to build a new auditorium while we have one that's flooding might also be monetarily not the best choice. And so when we're looking at moving programs, we have to think about the money involved in a budget year where we have a lack of funding, the cost of transition of 6 faculty members in PAA, and we have 1 AP course, by the way, Music Theory Advanced Placement, one of the only few in the state, and I have 5 class preps a day. I had 6 last year, but now I'm director, so I have less work. When you're waiting on that facility, students are waiting on the ability to continue the education that they had or could have. And I want the board to consider that if we're going to build proper facilities for students, that if they're not already in place when we move them, then they're waiting to build their potentiality for a couple of years. And those students who start the 9th grade would only have 2 years building that potentiality in proper performing venues. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robin.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jamal Khatak. I am a professor at UL, Department of Civil Engineering. I have 2 kids. Actually, I have 4 kids, but 2 of them are gifted. Both of them go to Paulbro. I have listened to almost everybody. I know their emotions, their everything else going on. To fix one problem, we cannot create another problem. Okay. Lafayette High has, everybody's saying it's a culture. I don't call it a culture, it's a system. All these academies and gifted programs and the local programs, they have come together as a system, and that's how it's nourishing, it's moving forward and showing A grade there. Okay. To fix a problem that we have in one school and another school, picking up one program and throwing it there is just like telling to me, I'm a Department of Civil Engineering guy, College of Engineering, right? You're telling me, okay, I'm going to take a Department of Civil Engineering, I'm going to give it to McNeese. It doesn't make sense. You understand my point? It doesn't make sense. It has to stay together. It has to stay together. It has to work as a system. If we have problems in other schools, we need to establish very similar programs in those schools and nourish them and build them and move them forward. It's not going to work like that. I'm an educator myself. I've been teaching for the last 16 years, okay, in UL. We have 3,000 students now in College of Engineering. We're going to be second largest College of Engineering in Louisiana, second after LSU. Okay, so if we start doing these things, it's not going to work. So I'm just trying to, this is my opinion again. I will highly suggest let's move our energies and forces to establish similar programs in other schools, nourish them, move them forward. Do not dismantle them. Do not take the physics program from MIT to some other program and say, MIT, okay, since physics is doing wonderful, you don't need physics anymore. You understand my point? So I would say here, if you have questions, no problem.
Thank you, sir. I would ask you again to please hold your applause in between speakers. Yes, sir.
Mr. President, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, thank you for tonight, and thank you for the commitment you've made to our community and to our students. I appreciate that. My name is Matt Oldenburg, and I'm a graduate of the Lafayette High Gifted Program 2006. And I'm concerned that the proposal y'all are considering to divide that program onto at least one additional campus is going to corrode that program to a point that might nearly be beyond repair. And I have just a couple of brief points to make in support of that tonight. And one of them is that I would like to encourage each of you to thoroughly observe the gifted program and to include the classes in that gifted program before you vote on such an impactful decision that would affect that program. But point number one is that gifted students are hungry for knowledge. They want to learn everything they possibly can about every subject available to them. And if you don't have an active and a challenging classroom environment, these students are going to go out on their own and independently learn about the material they're trying to learn about. And so in order to have that active and challenging learning environment, you have to have qualified teachers, the absolutely best skill and talent from the teaching community that would foster that active and challenging classroom environment. And so I'm concerned that if we have two different campuses, in every scenario, every example that you can think of, one campus will have a superior program or better teacher than the other one, and that's going to affect that gifted brand that one of the teachers earlier mentioned. And so I would just like to encourage you that the best thing I think you could do for the gifted program at this point would be a vote of confidence and to keep it as one unified program on one campus and invest into that program the absolute best resources that you have available. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, if no one else has anything left to say on this particular option, I will let you, oh, if it's just about him, sure, go ahead. All right.
He and his two brothers.
Will you go to the microphone? And then we're going to take a break.
The Oldenburg family had 3 sons in the gifted program. They all graduated with a 4.0, and to my knowledge, there may be one other program, but I think that is the one family that all 3 graduated with a 4.0, so that deserves an applause.
All right, with that, we'll take a 15-minute break, and we'll come back and we'll discuss 4 and 5, which would be, oh, there's 2 more with rezoning. We got maps to look at. We will now move on to option 4, which is designate Lafayette High School a magnet school with limited residential attendance zone that will accommodate approximately 600 in-zone students. And I will start the conversation off by saying that I went to the Lafayette High and Acadiana High playoff baseball series this past weekend. Such as it was, fits and starts on Saturday and Monday and postponements. But nonetheless, the rivalry between the two schools was very clear, and it was clear there was a rivalry built over many, many years. And converting to a magnet school would certainly remove that, as Lafayette High would no longer be able to participate in traditional 5A LHSAA athletics, as I understand it, because of its magnet status. So with that said, if any board members have questions about it, or if anyone from the public has a comment, we will limit it this time and be very forceful about it to one chance. So make sure you cover all of the topics you would like to cover on the... we don't ask you questions, do we? All right, come on.
Melinda Mangum. We had the title magnet in our school at one time, and it was taken out, and part of the reason happened to be because of the angst it caused with the athletics. So you are exactly right. It creates another problem that's, we don't need any more problems. So I would ask you to seriously consider before you make it a, sorry to say Baton Rouge magnet. I helped do that. That's how long I've been teaching. But I would give serious thought before I made Lafayette High a magnet school.
Thank you, Ms. Mangum. Ms. Norman?
Yes, my name is Dana Norman. My husband is a product of the Lafayette High Gifted Program. He graduated from there. The Gifted Program has produced lots and lots of leaders. We discerned for over a year as to whether we were going to put my 8th grader into the Lafayette High Gifted Program. He is gifted. And after a very long process of evaluating everything, we decided to do so. It's very important as a parent for my kid to be well-rounded. He excels in tennis, he excels in cross-country, soccer, and he's also very gifted. In fact, Friday he's leaving to go to Washington, D.C. for an expense-paid trip for math. Next year he's going to be starting at Lafayette High and gifted, and making it a magnet school would be terrible. These gifted kids need to be well-rounded. They're not just smart. If you put someone who's just smart, gifted kids, one of the reasons why it's so crucial for them to be well-rounded is because a lot of times socially, they're so intelligent that socially they can't relate to other people. So you have to make them a well-rounded individual for them to succeed in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Norman. Does anyone else have any comments about the magnet school? Any board members have any questions?
I'd like to make a quick comment.
Sure thing.
Brace yourself, Mr. Chairman. I want to tell you that I agree 100% with Miss Melinda Mangum.
I guess everybody can recognize a bad idea. Is that what it is? I don't know. All right. Well, if there are no further comments, I don't know if we took the steam out of the room or with that break or not. But if there are no further comments or questions on this option, we can move right along to number 5, which is redraw the Lafayette High School attendance zone to approximately 900 in-zone students. Should the board decline to move any academies or programs, thereby reducing enrollment strictly through zone modifications. Mr. Craig, would you please put up, is that, I don't know which map it is. Is it zone mod 3? So that people can see what this looks like? Yes, it is zone mod 3. And maybe try to zoom in on the Lafayette High section.
The lower right, that light blue, or I'm sorry, lower left, that light blue is the Lafayette High zone, and then in the upper central portion is the reduced Lafayette High zone.
I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you. All right, so what you're looking at here, and this would be the alternative to moving a program, is you're looking at the proposed zone to accompany this change from our demographer. And Dr. Aguilar, I believe, asked our demographer not to draw lines on any particular roadways or waterways, but to give him a zone that encompassed 900 students, so that we could have room to accommodate the many programs and out-of-zone students that take advantage of those programs. And so what you're looking at is Interstate 10 to the north. Then the western boundary is that Bertrand or Ambassador right there? I never can keep that straight, whichever comes off the interstate. And then it follows Ambassador Caffrey to Johnston Street. And then the line goes down Johnston towards UL. And if I can zoom in on my screen a little bit. Is that University Avenue? Yes. So it takes in it looks like it takes in the University as well as Freetown. And then the zone line is University Avenue back up to Interstate 10. And so there are a couple of things to note about this zone. Traditionally speaking, as one very long time alumni pointed out to me this weekend, is that 70503, which is the area between Johnston Street and the Vermilion River, has been a part of the Lafayette High attendance zone for its entire existence, basically. You know, she is, I'm not going to use the word old, she is very experienced and can speak to the historical nature of a lot of things about Lafayette High. And she certainly couldn't remember a time when that area was not a part of the Lafayette High zone. Also, moving from the Lafayette High zone with this map is the area between Ambassador Caffrey, Johnston Street, the river, and the parish line going towards Maurice, which in the 1980s, contrary to a couple of statements earlier today, Lafayette High did have an attendance problem because there were students zoned for Acadiana that were moved to Lafayette High School, and I can't imagine that any school board would zone students into a school that had 2,500 students already. And this portion of the parish was zoned for Lafayette High, and another nice lady that lives in my district contacted me about the history of the zone. And this portion of the zone was termed a growth zone. And after the rezoning of the early 80s, every high school in the parish had, at the very least, a portion of its attendance zone touch the parish line, with the idea being that no school would ever fall into the trap that Lafayette High had fallen into, where its zone was landlocked and there was no further room for development inside the Lafayette High attendance zone. So they extended it out past the mall in the mid-80s, which looked nothing like it does today. And so here we are. The growth zone worked. And now we're going to take it away from Lafayette High. So if anybody has any comments on this, I think this is a very good option for us to consider, because not that I agree with it, not that I support it, or not that I don't support it, but I think it brings into very real relief there are consequences for each of the decisions and each of the options that we have at our disposal, and that are our choices. And if we choose one, there is naturally a consequence for the other. And so I believe Ms. Mangum started the meeting off tonight with Dr. Leonard's letter asking us why we don't consider the attendance zone first. It's a chicken or egg thing, really, because we could consider the attendance zone and we could choose to move the attendance zone to Johnston or to the river and keep the traditional Lafayette High zone intact. All that means is that we're really choosing to move an academy. So it's 6 one way, half dozen another. And so I think that's why all of the options are being presented together, because choosing to move an academy, not choosing to move an academy, keeping gifted, doing something else, naturally impacts the attendance zone boundary. So if anyone has, any board members or anyone from the public has any comments about these lines, we'll be happy to take them now. Mr. Kinesic.
I would just like to note, one for the audience, two for the press, that these are not the new high school zones. These are not the new high school zones. These
That is
are
correct.
not- These are not.
This is a scenario.
Right. These are not the new high school zones in any way. Thank you.
Very, very prescient comment, Mr. Kinesic. Ms. Norman, would you like to speak?
Please forgive me. First of all, I was here for the first hour and I had to leave, but I'm back. So if I say something that someone else said, please forgive me, but I will be brief. The culture at Lafayette High is very conducive for gifted kids because of, like for instance, well, all of my kids are gifted. It's quite interesting. I really need to have a degree in it so I can know how to deal with them. But anyway, gifted kids, they think on a different level, so much so as they're the kids their age, that they a lot of times are socially not accepted. They're bullied, they're criticized, they're all this. Lafayette High's culture is phenomenal. It's accepting, it's loving. Everyone can be who they are, and it's okay. My husband went to Lafayette High gifted. In the neighborhood he lived in, there was kids from Como, and he had friends from Acadiana, and they would talk about what those schools were like for them, and my husband was so thankful he had the culture that he had that was nurturing and that was able to help him to become the person that he was supposed to be. And so the culture at Lafayette High, the gifted kids need to all stay together in that culture of acceptance at Lafayette High. And I don't really have any comments about the particular where the lines are drawn, but that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Norman. I would remind the audience that if you have comments on the attendance zone line or the idea of not moving a program, please restrict your comments to that.
Hello, my name is Emily Miller. I'm a current student at Lafayette High School. I'm a current gifted student at Lafayette High School in the sophomore class. My social studies teacher is Ms. McCrory, and my previous social studies teacher is Mr. Cole, and they're both here. Even though I'm no longer included in the proposed attendance zone, I still encourage you to consider that as an option, as being the best option. Keeping these academies and the gifted program in place is integral to the human ecosystem that's grown at Lafayette High School. I think the best option would be to keep it the way it is now and take that blueprint and replicate it at other schools to improve schools like Caring Crow, Acadiana, and Northside. Because though those schools have great potential, they need the support to reach that Lafayette High has had up until this point. And I think that is what makes Lafayette High so unique, makes it so accepting and so loving. And I think that that's the most important part of the Lafayette Parish school system, is our ability to change and to keep the issues in development current. And I think with the attendance zones and keeping all of these intact, you would have the best ability to create an ecosystem similar to Lafayette High School at the most number of schools available. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Bob Miller. It's my daughter, Emmeline, that just spoke. First thing I know we only got 3 minutes, so I'm going to be quick, but I want to tell you that me as a person who is a taxpayer of Lafayette Parish, I actually want to thank you folks for the job you do. Okay, so you probably not what you're expecting to hear tonight, but I want to tell you, you got a hard problem. Okay, so and I appreciate hard problems. I've done a lot of hard problems, solved a lot of them in my life. Okay, so I'm not a gifted student. I wasn't. Probably furthest. The only thing I can say related to gifted is I have not messed my daughter up. I take credit for doing that part. But I will tell you what I am good at, and what I am good at is recognizing what's valuable about a situation. I've been in 12 startup companies, none that have failed. So working with people and teams and environments that are high pressure, hard decisions, tough choices, balancing, those are things that I'm very familiar with. And what I see happening and what I would like for you to think about, I understand the problem. You got vacancies in certain places and overcrowding in other places. But you also have excellent systems in place that have produced excellent results. And what I do know as a person in business who's been successful is you don't tear down what it is that you got. You try to duplicate it. You try to take that experience and you try to, in the long-term spirit of solving this problem, figure out what it is that you really need to do to grow these other schools in these other places. And that means taking the benefits of what you've learned from this program and figuring out a plan, a long-term plan for doing this. I actually, even though my daughter and I were looking at the proposed board, these are not real, these are proposed, but in looking at them, our house would fall outside of that. Now she's in the gifted program, so it is that, you know, no matter. But the bottom line is that I think it's the right decision to look at zoning as a possible solution, because in the end, what you need to do is organically grow these other areas and their programs to the same level that has been created by the culture of acceptance and the people who are involved in Lafayette High School. I think it's a longer-term goal. It's not a quick fix, and it has to be done over time. But I think it is a more viable solution, and it is one that justifies all of the teachers in all of these schools' willingness to grow these programs. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hidalgo.
Thank you. I certainly know that it is an option to do that. I don't know if it's the most viable option, and I want to thank both of you for coming up and speak. Great job. But I think that, yes, if you are currently a student at Lafayette High in one of the programs, which means you have a seat next year in the program, then I certainly agree that changing the attendance zone is a viable option for that individual. But it's not a viable option for your neighbor who may not be in the program, and that's what I want to speak to. Before I do, though, option 3 was create equal parallel health careers and/or performing arts academies at Como High with gifted services being available to both sites. That was looked over by this board and the audience, and I mean, that's what now we're suggesting, and we just looked it over. I've heard many times tonight, in between the suggestion that we look over option 3, that we should look at creating new programs at other schools and growing them. Well, that was an option, and the visitors here tonight and the board here said, hey, let's move on, let's not do that. So we, you know, I think we're all over the map with this, but I can tell you one thing that I can't support. I can't support telling a student, we want to talk about a vested interest. How about a vested financial interest of people who act, look, in my district, I know it well. People move to District 9 a lot of times so they can go to one of those schools in District 9, and I'm proud of that. And to tell one of those students whose parents bought a home in District 9 to go to that school that we're going to go ahead and zone you out of this school so we can allow little Johnny, who lives 10 miles up the road, to come to this school for this academy, is something that I cannot support. So if I can't support it in my district, I'm not going to be able to support it in any district. So I just wanted to let my fellow board members know that.
Thank you, Mr. Hidalgo. I have to tell you that every time you send us an email and every time you get up there, I have to try really, really difficult, because I, every time, almost call her Holly Golightly. Every time. Molly,
if it helps, go for it.
Molly, go forth, please. Sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I only have 3 minutes. So what I wanted to say is that so many people have come up here and talked about education and the educational experience that our children have as a system. And just to kind of take it, this immediately brought to mind, like the gifted student that came up, it's an ecosystem. We all know what happens when in an ecosystem you take out all the wolves. What happens? The whole ecosystem crumbles. What happens when a certain population is destroyed within an ecosystem? The ecosystem fails. That's the very basis of the concept of a system. And systematic thinking is something that is a trend coming up in education nowadays, is having a system in place that is allows different people to work together. A team is better than an individual. An individual pitcher is not going to win a baseball game. It takes the whole team. And that's what Lafayette High has been able to do. So this option that I'm seeing, even though it may make one student have to go to another school than what their parents thought, it leaves in place a successful system. And one thing that a lot of people have said, or I've heard, is that we are trying to make an equitable education for all of the 30,000 students. That there are some excellent teachers at Northside High. There are some excellent teachers at Como. There are excellent teachers, excellent classes at every single one of our schools. So to say that the one next door neighbor who isn't in an academy is going to be hurt by going to a different school is kind of arguing against some other arguments that I've heard. What is going to be damaging to the students is when you destroy the ecosystem that is in place at Lafayette High. That one student is going to get, who isn't a part of the one of the programs, isn't going to have that interaction that is so rich at Lafayette High, but they'll still have their algebra, and they'll still have their English, and they'll still have their science, but they won't be, but that won't be depriving the student with the special needs, the need for the differentiation that has worked since elementary school to learn an instrument, to go so that they can have this experience all throughout their career, so that they can be in the health academy and take strings, so that they can be in strings and also be in one of the best bands in the United States. You're not going to be depriving those students of that have worked hard for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to speak to the idea of I think it was option number 3 of adding on. We, Health Academy and Arts Academy, were brainstorming, and with Our Lady of Lourdes being close.
We're getting pretty late in the evening. Would you please restrict your comments to the option at hand, not moving an academy and handling it through rezoning?
I thought it was about adding on, like making a sports academy and adding on.
No, that was we covered that one earlier. I think Mr. Hidalgo was just referencing it. Is all.
Because we sure could come up with some great ideas of adding on to those other academies with a film and
I have no doubt that we could. Dr. Chasson?
What Mr. Hidalgo said, I have to wholeheartedly agree. In looking at the zones, if you decrease it, it sounds nice when folks say, hey, listen, even though it carves me out, but those individuals still get to go to school there because of the program. See, it's in keeping all of the programs there. We're changing the zones, but the people that are here were here because of the academies that were possibly leaving. No one in this audience is here for, why are you redrawing my zone so now I can't go there? Because that's an entirely different group of folks that we've yet to hear from. And that's not fair to them. It's not. Again, guys, it boils down to the numbers at Lafayette High are extremely high. The numbers at Como are about to be extremely low. However, in addition to that, the numbers at Karen Crow have been low, and the numbers at Northside are historically low. So we're still kind of dancing around the inevitable topic, which is the number of programs that are at Lafayette High. And there's too many programs there. I hate to say it, even though we may, in the end, choose redrawing a zone, and it makes everyone happy with the academies, and it doesn't make quite everyone happy with the actual zone modification. Overall, it may look like a win. It's not fair to those individual kids, and I mean, these kids will prosper no matter what school they're at. But you've got high schools that are half full and 68% full. And you need to put something there, no matter what. You know what? I don't know why I never thought of it before, and I don't know why I think it's going to be a zinger for everyone, but it just hit me. The reason why everything got moved to Lafayette High Everyone remember that inevitable reason that everyone kept talking about? Oh, the numbers were historically low, and you couldn't get anyone to go to school there because of the zones and everything under the sun. So now, years, decades later, it has shifted from the south side to the north side. So the same reason why previous boards moved programs and academies to Lafayette High, it's the same reasons why those programs need to. I understand, Ms. Mangum, I understand. The same reason why those programs need to then shift and move to other schools, because you alleviate the overcrowding and then you remedy the other situation that those academies have inevitably caused. You can still redraw the zone no matter what, but my kid is still not going to north side because she's in those academies. So you're still taking those kids from that area. You can redraw the zone all you want. All those kids are still, guys, I have both zone modifications up, and it looks really neat that Lafayette High is going to go from 1,300 kids to 569.
I would point out, Dr. Chasson, that Lafayette High currently has 1,700 zone children.
Right.
And that going to 1,300 is, in fact, rezoning
right.
Lafayette High.
Right. I understand.
This is a further
rezone. And inevitably, when you look at that number, you're like, oh, that fixes it. But if you just look up like 2 slots to Karen Crow loses 79 kids from their zone, and Northside loses 117. So we're rezoning, but already can't get kids to go to the school now. Not for any particular reason, just because you live in that area, you're in a specialized program, you're leaving. You're going to Lafayette High. Even in the other zone modification, we go from 1,300 to 900. So Lafayette High loses 396 kids. That would put Lafayette High at 2,072. That's still 2,100 kids. Now it's room to grow. We're going to expand Health Academy probably. So the numbers are going to go up because now we have more room. But Karen Crow still loses 77 kids, and Northside still loses 62 just by the zone modifications. So you're still not addressing there. Everyone thinks the elephant in the room was Lafayette High being overcrowded. Well, that elephant had been in the room from 3 circuses ago. And it's the fact that there's schools that are half full, and we still have to address those. So I'm not going to let this go by without staff and the board, or at least the community, addressing that we need to address that we are depleting all of the resources, which are the kids, from these particular zone areas.
Thank you, Dr. Chesson. Ms. Greffey, I believe Ms. Yeager was in line. Is that fine? Okay. No, she said you can go.
I was just wondering if anybody had considered the fact that if we move our programs to other schools, will the number of students who apply to those schools decline?
Yes, we have considered that.
The fact that, you know, because there's academies at every school, and what if we did a flip-flop and moved the Law Academy to Lafayette High, then all of a sudden everyone's going to want to be at the Law Academy. So I'm just wondering that how is it going to work, because here you have all these people wanting to get into Arts Academy because of our band and our choir program, but when we move it, it might go down to 20 kids wanting to be in the program. So there we've taken a successful program, Health Academy or Arts Academy, and moved it, and then all of a sudden it's going to be a very small program.
I don't think that's necessarily the only outcome of this. It could certainly, given the room to grow and resources invested, it could certainly improve. But it's definitely an unknown in any decision that we make for either of these academies. I agree with you there. However, we have thought about it. Ms. Yeager.
I'm going to keep this brief. What I'm hearing when I hear there are too many academies at Lafayette High is that there are too many successful academies at Lafayette High. I had no idea that there was even a legal academy program in this area, and that's what I do. You know, I mean, like I don't understand why aren't we bolstering that program as it exists at Northside? Why aren't area attorneys being asked to go and work with these kids? Where is that? I'm not talking about the duplicate programs, you know, and if they are, I mean, I know I have a former boss of mine who works with kids who do debate, but that's not the same as this program, or I'm assuming it's not the same as this program that I'm hearing about. So if any of you guys could address that question for me.
I believe we covered that in agenda item 1 when Ms. Olivier said that she is increasing her advertising budget, and we're talking about increasing the budget for the schools of choice by $150,000 this year because it's been stagnated over the last 6 or 7 years, and make sure that we really get the residents of the parish to know what the options are and where we have space and where we have seats available for the children who might be interested in some of these specialized academies, because it's a shame you didn't know about that, especially given your eventual choice in careers.
Right.
So we are looking into that, and we're doing our best, but this is the situation we find ourselves in.
A follow-up very quickly. Would that not increase enrollment at the school if the program grew?
We would certainly hope so. Thank you, Ms. Yeager.
To address that comment, the academies are all successful, and they really are. Mr. Santani mentioned earlier that the Law Academy is award-winning. Those kids are getting scholarships to college, full rides. They have the support. I mean, Ms. Morris can attest to it. I know it must have killed you to not grab your mic and pull it down, press it immediately. She invests all of her time and efforts and money, and we're on the phone talking, and how can we raise more money, because they go to competitions and they win, and they're beating out top-notch schools. It's just there are more kids in other academies. Kids choosing the academy. My daughter chose one over another. She could have chose law. She just chose another. That's what she wants to do. And it's not one bad thing or another. It's just, it's not the fact that there's successful academies at Lafayette High. It's just that there's so many academies. They're all successful. If you take 2 academies and drop them down to 3 at Lafayette High and make it 4 at Northside, then they're all still successful academies. There's just more kids going to Northside. And to address something earlier, I fully expect, even if something did happen, whether or not it moved or not, or we changed the zones, when you change a possible academy location, I've heard parents say, "I'm taking my kid out of school. I'm putting them in private school." I've heard we're taking them out and we're just gonna. Well, it was the same thing with the gifted program at Paulboro. Kids, parents, they chose not to go. There was a small decrease, and then eventually it gets back to normal. And it's just a way of life with change, how Mr. Latchley states.
I'll give you my personal experience with the rezoning last spring. I work at Iberia Bank, and there was one of the relationship managers there was standing behind the counter in the actual branch, and I walked up to deposit a check one day, and she just looks at me and she has tears in her eyes. And we hadn't rezoned anybody yet at this point, and I said, "What's wrong?" She's like, "You're rezoning me." She's like, "We bought my house to go to Green Tea Linden, and it's like, we're out of classrooms."
Right.
It's like there's literally nothing I can do about this. It's not, we're doing this for efficiency or to do whatever. It's like literally we have no classrooms left at this school, and none of those people wanted to go to Catherine Drexel. And 6 months later, I asked her, I said, "How's everything going at Drexel?" She said, "Justin, it's the best school ever. It's wonderful. It's working out better than I ever could have expected." And I was thinking to myself, you had some pretty low expectations, so it's probably pretty easy for you to be happy with the situation now. But she went through and told us about how everything's working out at the school, and and certainly that's not going to be the experience of everyone that got rezoned. But the fact of the matter is, as Dr. Chasson said, there is benefit in change, and change is, unknowns are scary, and change is hard. But I think that this is going to have to be part of it. Is dealing with the change and the upheaval necessary to solve some of our problems. So I'm going to let this lady speak first. Mr. Hidalgo, is that okay? Sure.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Ash Levesque. housewife, business owner, mom of a gifted student at Lafayette High, who was looking very forward during her 3 years at Paul Road to get to Lafayette High. Something that I have heard through several of these meetings that it just doesn't make sense to me is spending I'm no contractor, but it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to move these programs and their facilities to these other schools. When you're building a brand new high school, Southside High School, is part of this idea of this brand new high school that maybe we should build some of these brand new facilities into the budget of building this high school and start another program similar to what has happened at Lafayette High at this new high school, and attract the students to that school with this brand new, updated, technologically sound facility. Taking an entire program out of Lafayette High is a huge financial burden, and from what I understand, our city, our budget, our economy right now is in a huge deficit. We're in a crunch, and we're proposing millions of dollars to take something that is successful at this Lafayette High School and moving it to another school. That not only breaks down in our budget, but it breaks down the morale in the short term. And I understand long term that program's going to transfer, it's going to survive, and it will become what it is at another place. But in the short term, you're talking about the whole population of an entire school taking a very huge hit of morale, because some of these kids are going to lose some of that program. They're cross-populated, and so you're asking children to make a decision of what they would like to do more instead of offering them all of the opportunities that they have at Lafayette High. So it doesn't make sense to me as an average person. Proposing to spend so many millions of dollars to yank something out of something that works and testing it out somewhere else, instead of duplicating those programs, allowing that hypothetical kid that didn't get into violin to take violin at Northside, because the program is then there and established in a new facility for that school instead of breaking up Lafayette High. So I would just propose that we duplicate and replicate what is working at Lafayette High instead of breaking it up and spending the money to shift it somewhere else. Or what is the deal with Southside and their facilities? Have we not implemented new facilities into that school that we need?
Well, the problem with Southside is that we're not having any trouble attracting people
well,
to
because
the
it's
Southside
not. I understand that it's not built. So
I'm saying that we don't need to put special programs at Southside to get children to go to Southside. People are moving there all of their own volition.
I understand that as well, and there will be a huge population of kids that are zoned for that school. But are there going to be programs available for those students that might attract Como students, that might attract, some of these other? It makes more sense to duplicate the programs instead of breaking it up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Dr. Aguilar, I'm Brian Lafayette. I'm the director of the Academy of Visual Applied Arts at Como High School. I figured I've been sitting here since 5:30 and listening patiently and hoping to get a moment to speak to you guys about some ideas. I know that you received a letter from me outlining the program in the last 8 years since I've been director there. I got into this business a roundabout way. I was a university museum guy. My last job in the university museum was at UL. I was an art historian there. I'm an active artist. I'm a real right-brain guy, although I happen to be able to juggle some paperwork, and some budget numbers. But I'm a real collaborative guy. When I came back from graduate school, moved back to Louisiana, I had the opportunity early in my museum career to participate in a mural project in a very poor rural parish, Grant Parish, excuse me, north of Alexandria. 100 fifth grade kids, very rural school, didn't have any art whatsoever. First day, now here I am, I'm an art guy. I walk into this room, 100 fifth grade students, never seen paintbrush. And the teacher pulls me aside and she says, "You see those two boys over there?" I said, "Yes." She said, "They're awful. They're not going to do anything for you." I said, "Okay." So end of the week, it was a week-long project. End of the week, those kids had been the most participatory students of the project. The day that they installed that large-scale painting, it was 9 feet tall, something like 15 feet wide. They installed it in the cafeteria during lunchtime, and they had those little square pizzas. And I remember being a kid, you know, we loved that stuff. There was talking, but as soon as the physical plant guys brought that painting in and started to lift it, the place went quiet. Kids were just watching. So I'm going to fast forward a year later. I'm someplace shopping, and one of those teachers that had warned me about those two young men came up to me and she said, "I don't know what you did." I said, "What are you talking about?" You know, she said, "You remember that mural project at Grant Elementary?" I said, "Sure." And she said, "Remember those two boys?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "I don't know what you did." She said, "But they changed after that." I said, "It wasn't me. It was the art." So my friends over, creatives over at Lafayette High, I'm a big proponent of collaboration. I'm an artist. I've done performance art, installation art. I've shown considerably across the United States. I welcome the opportunity to build something that is very unique to the state of Louisiana, if that's what it comes to. I want you all to know that. Board, thank you very much for your time and your consideration of all of this that you're dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lafayette. Excuse me. Mr. Hidalgo, I forgot. Oh, he wasn't finished. I cut you off? I apologize.
It's unfortunate if a kid wants to opt out of a program just because the program moves. But we can't duplicate the services. I know I'm going to say can and can't. You can duplicate them, but you can't duplicate the services because I can't duplicate the kid. It's the sheer number that we're focusing on. So I want everyone to please keep that in mind. I don't want to duplicate the kid. It's the number of kids that is the concern. It's overcrowding versus all of the most attractive programs are at Lafayette High. Strange to hear me say that. All of the most attractive, not based upon what I think. No, just based upon the numbers of kids that are choosing the programs. The most attractive ones to the kids over the past decade have been the programs that are Lafayette High. So you can't duplicate them, because if you duplicate them, then you're duplicating it for what? There's only one kid available for that. Now, yeah, you can separate the kids, but then you're watering down the program. I understand that. You just have to attract the kid. Whatever program attracts the kids, that's where the focus needs to be. And the programs that attract the kids happen to be at Lafayette High. So that's all I have to say about that.
I'll be brief. It is unfortunate that I'm sorry. I'll be brief. It is unfortunate if there's any student who would consider dropping out of a program just because it's moved to a different school. That tells me that the student joined the program just to go to that school, and that's wrong. That's not what our programs are for. That's not what the schools of choice are for, because it makes me look at it and say, well, wait a minute. How many students who really, really wanted to be in that special program didn't get in because a student wanted to go to Lafayette High? A lot of students want to go to Green Tea Leonard Ernest Scott Youngsville Middle, so much so that their parents move into those zones. And we're about to tell those students, we have no more room for you, so we're about to boot you out. It makes me think we ought to reevaluate the way we choose students to get into our programs. We cannot allow students to get into a program just to go to a certain school. The way you do that is to do what Mrs. Santani suggested many months ago when we were talking about rezoning District 9. Move within 1 mile of the school, and you'll be able to go to that school.
Can you
I
mention?
certainly must have had more of a suggestion than
That's
that.
funny. That's funny.
That doesn't sound as nuanced as I would typically be.
That was a synopsis.
Oh, okay. I was very short. Okay.
If you wouldn't mind, can you just share really quickly, just briefly, informatics, if you wouldn't mind, just for a second. There are other amazing ideas that we know we have, and this gentleman actually does it for a living, and there's such a shortage of folks, high-paying jobs, that if you just get into the science of data retrieval, you can make an amazing lifestyle for yourself.
I solve math problems all day. That's what I do.
Can you tell them about informatics if you want?
It's advanced data analytics. It's econometric modeling. It's trying to statistically forecast various things based on large amounts of data that you aggregate from different systems, both public and private. So, when the superintendent proposed in the agenda last month to create an Academy of Informatics, I told Dr. Chasson, I said, you need to get that at Northside. I said, that is an exceptional program. And even if no child that is not zoned for Northside, let me make sure I got my double negatives correct. Even if no child that is not zoned for Northside doesn't attend, you got that right.
Got it.
It's still high-paying jobs for children who live near Northside High School, because I can personally attest that we have an exceptionally difficult time finding people to hire at the bank. And so this is a program that will be attractive, that has real-world value, that I think a lot of children that have math and science backgrounds would be very well served if they want to go and be a professional nerd. If they don't want to do that, then we can't help them. But anyway, I think that's what Dr. Chasson is talking about. So the superintendent and our staff and the school board, I think we do have ideas on how to improve the schools that are not named Lafayette High School. We do, and we're going to focus on solving those problems. So, yes, ma'am, your turn.
Hi, Mr. President, Dr. Aguilar. My name is Erin Atkins. I'm the other COMO faculty member left standing tonight. And I am not an art teacher, but I absolutely fully believe in our arts academy. We have what I believe is one of the most unique academies. We take our academy, and it's not just taught in certain classes. We take the arts and we teach them in every class. I was a biology teacher. I taught anatomy. I taught physical science. And I taught arts through my class. I watched my students learn stuff in August and September that I needed them to know on a test in May that they had to pass for the state. And they remembered it because they truly learned it, because they got to take something that was meaningful to them through the arts, internalize it, and then that turned into true knowledge, true learning for them. So I got thrown into this almost 10 years ago. I was in a classroom. I was boring. It was my first year. And once I saw it work on the first student, I'll never forget this student. Her name was Angela. She could not explain a single thing to me in physical science. And all of a sudden, when I gave them a task to create an analogy drawing, she got it. And she got it on her test. And she got it at the end of the year. I will believe in this program until the day that I die. So I know y'all may not want to come to us. Unfortunately, we're losing some really good students. We don't want to lose them. It's going to happen. We're going to gain some really good students too. And if y'all come to us, this program is fantastic. Hopefully we can have a little bit more money to boost it. At one point we were the one Bernstein Arts Integrated High School in the country. We had other high schools from Illinois or Indiana coming to us to see how we integrated arts in our classroom. We've traveled to see these schools in Portland, Oregon. We've traveled to New York to train the Lincoln Center and integrate their arts. A lot of it was performing arts. So by all means, please bring them over. We welcome whoever you want to bring to us. And I think it would be great to incorporate visual arts, applied arts, performing arts. You want to bring gifted to us, bring gifted to us. But we will take them with open arms, and you will see how great our academy is as well. Also, I'm sorry, Ms. Morris, but I told her this at the break. We don't work like Trojans at Como. We work like Spartans.
Very well done. Very well done. Ms. Mangum, I will say, does anyone else would like to speak? I'd be happy to end the meeting with Ms. Mangum getting the last word.
have a zoning question.
You have a zoning question?
I have
Yeah,
a
sure.
zoning question. Are we talking about zoning?
We are.
Okay.
We are.
I am confused, believe it or not. If we have a gifted program at Lafayette High and one at Como, and there is partial zoning, and most of our students in Lafayette High in the gifted program, or majority of them, are zoned for Lafayette High at the moment. But if we draw that line down Johnson Street and all those kids that live in the 70503 who are gifted, now they're going to be going to the gifted program at Como, is that correct? Because I don't think people understand.
I believe this line that you're looking at is a result of not moving anything from Lafayette High. I believe that if we chose to move, and what you're talking about, duplicate academies and splitting gifted, I don't imagine that the Lafayette High zone would have to be modified quite so severely.
Well, it's pretty severe the way it's written up, if the way I read it.
It's severe.
Severe.
Like this zone map right here?
I mean, when you take the 705.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you. This is very severe.
That's pretty severe, and there are a lot of our kids that live in that zone.
But this is also if you want to move, if you need to move children out of Lafayette High strictly through rezoning, this is what it looks like. Okay. Is the point.
And I would like to, if I'm the last speaker, I would like to end.
I don't know. That man back there looked like he might. When I said that, he got a worried look on his face, and he wanted to. Are you sure? Okay. All right.
I would just like to ask you, in the petition that you received, there is a paragraph written by a former Lafayette High student. If the school board is serious about fulfilling its mission and vision to provide excellence in education for all students and develop productive citizens prepared to compete in the global community, it will abandon some of these proposals that are sure to wreak havoc at certain schools or in our school system capacity to do just that. And we urge you to let Lafayette High stay as it is and be the school that others emulate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mangum. Does anyone else have anything to add on rezoning? All right, well then I would like to personally thank every parent and student and alumni and regular citizen of Lafayette Parish who came out tonight to give us your comments on these ideas. We certainly appreciate them all, and good evening.